Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto and Hinata get married after so many struggles? And subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. Hinata looked to her right. It was as she feared. Naruto stood not 10 feet from her, buying ramen from the ramen bar. He smiled at the cashier and walked away. He held a steaming bowl of ramen. He spotted her. Naruto said, "Yo, Hinata, how's the training going?" Her face turned a crimson color. Fine. She looked down and started to walk away. Hey, you want to get some ramen? I'm paying. It was a rare thing for Naruto. He smiled at her, and she looked up. Okay. She gave him a weak smile and started to walk towards him. Naruto walked back up to the cashier and put another bill over the table. Another beef ramen, K? So Hinata, what are you doing at training lately? Last week Master Kakashi told us about some of his missions. You know he's pretty kick-ass. Naruto said as he took another spoonful of ramen into his mouth. He looked at Hinata. What's wrong? He said through a mouthful of food. Huh? She shot back to attention. Oh sorry, I was having a daydream. I think. Naruto looked at her and stood up, looking around, smiling. Well, you aren't eating, and I'm full. Want to take a walk? He placed the tip on the table, and then stopped for a second and took it back. You really should eat, you know? It helps the muscles. Sorry. You paid for it too. She stood up and gave another weak smile. Where are we going? It's already about 9. Where do you live? It's getting cold out, so you should get home. He smiled. She started to walk, and Naruto instinctively started to follow her. It's not that far from here actually. She began to walk west, trying to build courage to do something that she didn't even know she could do. They walked the whole way, Naruto talking every step they took. Hinata listened carefully to every word. She only stopped him once, and that was to say she was home. This is it, good night. Her body moved forward and she stopped, so suddenly she tripped. Naruto quickly tried to catch her, but she fell face first into the hard earth. Naruto picked her up as quick as he could, hoping that she didn't hurt herself. Hinata, what's wrong with you? You almost killed yourself right there, he said with a small laugh. Her face was beet red, as if it was blood. Hinata? Sorry, she said as if it was one big word. She then ran inside her house, leaving Naruto to dwell on what had just happened, and leaving her to wonder why she stopped. Girls, he said as he walked off. Naruto! Shouted Sakura through her window. What is he doing here? Throwing rocks at my window. She opened the window and walked to the edge of the balcony. Naruto, she said through clenched teeth. Hey, I need to talk to you, he said. You know, grr. About what? It's 3 in the damn morning. She growled one more time before hearing his answer. It's... He looked down, trying to hide a red face. It's about love. What do you mean? She looked at him and immediately figured it out. I'll be down in a sec. Naruto crossed his arms and tried to gather his thoughts. The door in front of him opened and Sakura looked at him. It's hard to say, he said. Sakura looked gently at him and walked inside as Naruto followed her inside. So, said Sakura sitting opposite Naruto, her on a couch and him on a chair. Who's the lucky, girl, Hinata. His face turned even more red. Last night. I bought her ramen cause she seemed sad, we talked and I walked her home. When we got there she went pow. He smacked his hands together, she kissed me. I don't know how to explain it was like all these emotions going into my heart. Before that I thought I liked you, but those emotions I guess were really for her. It's weird. Sakura's face had turned a little red. Naruto. In love? Thought Sakura. With Hinata. Whoa. Deep. Naruto looked at her. What should I do? Said Naruto. Yeah, right. Go tell her that you love her, she said with a smile. She'll come around eventually, and a gift or two would help out. She stood up and walked over to Naruto, putting a hand on his shoulder. Don't give up. Naruto smiled at her and stood up, both of them at eye level. Naruto has grown since he graduated. Now he stood Sakura's height. Thanks. Naruto walked out of the house and walked east. He looked upwards and thought deep. He tried to think of words to say and things to do. 10 feet away, Kakashi was doing the same thing, holding a bouquet of flowers in his hand. Come on, Kakashi, he thought to himself. She's always been there for you. Not really. She's cute, funny, and an awesome fighter. What else do you any? He was cut off. Kakashi and Naruto collided. Naruto fell back, surprised. Kakashi's bouquet flew up and hit his face. Kakashi sat there for a second and then sat up. The bouquet hitting his head, then falling to his knees. Hello, Naruto, he said, putting his hand up. Where are you going? What? Oh, nowhere, just walking. Naruto looked at the bouquet and smiled. Who are those for? Hinata looked out of her window and sighed. Naruto. She sat in that trance for a while. Naruto, she yelled, throwing her boots on. I forgot about Naruto. She quickly combed her hair and ran out of the house. Naruto smiled. Hee. Master, are you in? Lube, he said, half laughing and making a funny face as he finished. Kakashi smiled. Unlike you, I can admit it. Naruto, she's special to me, and I'm attracted to her. You get it right? Naruto looked at him seriously, then his eye twitched, and he broke out laughing. Phew. That was funny. Yeah, huh? He stood up, and Naruto followed him. Well, where were you going? Naruto gave him a stupid look, his lips outward. Get some ramen. Hey, can I bum a 5 off you? He put his hand on the back of his head. Why? I forgot my money. He thought for a second. Kakashi gave him a look and reached into his pocket as if to get money. He took his hand out of his pocket and handed a toffee into his hand. Out, he simply said. Sorry. He started walking away and Naruto said, What? Hey Simon, man, I really need that damn money. See ya. He quickly disappeared, and where he left, 20 sat. He sure likes screwing with my head. Hinata was tense. She looked around the ramen bar. Why isn't Naruto here? She thought. He's usually here from 6 till 9. Naruto walked into the bar, looking grumpy. Naruto, said Hinata, surprised and happy at the same time. For some reason her shout came out as a hoarse whisper. He looked around, and her purple jacket was immediately spotted by Naruto. He looked down and looked at the contents in his hands. A bouquet of flowers, a chocolate box with an envelope taped to it. He sighed. Hey, Hinata. Sweat poured from every place in his body, his hands, his face, everywhere. Thanks, master. He thought. Naruto? Hinata walked up to him, her face red as Naruto's. Naruto looked up at her, gritting his teeth, till he felt his teeth starting to strain. Hinata, he said. She was smiling, just smiling. She nodded her head and smiled. I know. On the outside she was calm and ready, but on the inside she was shaking like a puppy. She hugged him, and he returned it, smiling. Then, she started crying. Naruto held the hug as he tried to walk over to a booth, and then sat her down. Hinata, he said. She kept crying, so he repeated himself, his voice calm and soft. Hinata, and Naruto. She said through a cry. She sniffled. Tears resided on her cheeks. What? Why? He smiled, talking about the kiss. The first kiss. The smile reassured her of her safety, and he put his arms on the table, on top of her own. It. She sniffed. Took all my energy, all my ego, everything I had inside of me to kiss you. And here I hugged you without even breaking a sweat. What's wrong with me? Never mind that. But, Naruto. I have. Loved you for so long. It just took till now to say or do anything to tell you of it. Naruto gave her a confused look. What do you mean? She stood up, and Naruto instinctively followed her up. Right now Hinata was like a woman in love, a puzzle. She turned around and put her hand on Naruto's face. I have confidence now. I have reassurance. Naruto touched her hand. He was confused more now than ever. He then cupped his hand around hers. He looked into her bluish eyes, and it took till then, as she was smiling, as she was happy and not sad, and as she was his, that he realized she's beautiful. Hinata got the same feeling she always got around him, though it was a little different this time. This time she was happy, and she knew he was handsome, and she saw his golden hair and eyes, and his facial expression. Soulmates, she thought. Sakura looked on. Outside the ramen bar, she smiled. The two were meant for each other, just a little nudge from her, and they were off. You know, said Sasuke from behind her, scaring the hell out of her. It's not polite to be nosy. Sasuke! What the hell are you doing, man? She looked at him, and he threw an eye down at her. Getting ramen? It's only 6:10, I can still get dinner, can't I? He smirked. Is that Naruto? He finally noticed what she was staring at, and didn't blame her. Yep, I can wait for dinner. He sat down next to Sakura. How long have they been like that? A minute or so. Oh, Kakashi looked at the house in front of him. It was Kurenai's house. He looked at the bouquet and then knocked on the door, sighing. Kurenai opened it, and looked at Kakashi and then at the flowers. Kakashi? What-o? He smiled. How would you react to this? He thought of what happened in Come Paradise, and then quickly threw away the idea. Kakashi, what's the meaning of this? She gave him a suspicious look and stepped out of the house, closing the door. Something she was cut off. I love you. He looked down and closed her eyes, not daring to see her face. She was open-mouthed, staring at his white hair. She tried to say something but her throat didn't work, and she couldn't move her tongue. Sakura, wake up, I think Blondie's gonna do something. It was now 9 p.m., and the bar was closing. Naruto and Hinata had been in the same place for 3 hours. It was as if they were retarded. Naruto, said Hinata. Hinata, said Naruto. He looked into her eyes and then pushed the situation a bit farther. I love you. He stepped forward, Hinata's hand going past his head, and behind it. A weird feeling went through him as he struggled to go farther. Their lips connected, and Sakura's eyes widened, Sasuke's, surprisingly too. Heh, said Sakura, look at that, Naruto and Hinata's first real kiss. First real kiss? Said Sasuke, what do you mean? The kiss stopped as Hinata's hands were now around the back of Naruto's neck. Naruto's own hands were clenched, sweat pouring from them. Yeah, said Sakura. Well, last night Hinata, kissed Naruto and sparked this. The situation, I mean. Well, not without a couple of choice words to help out though. Hard to say, but Naruto found love before me. Look at them, despite their own personality flaws and differences. They are in love with each other, and they aren't picky at all. Soulmates, Sakura, soulmates, said Sasuke. Sakura looked at him, who looked back. You know. Did you just explain to us? Her eyes bulged out, then her face turned red. Sasuke looked down. He fumbled with his hands and thought about what she had just said. Again and again he replayed it. She has always loved me, but I ignored her. Should I have done that? Who knows, maybe she would have ended up with Naruto. I don't know what I would have done then. His thoughts flew by his brain faster than he could comprehend. Sakura, he finally said. Sasuke? He looked down. Half right. What, she interrupted. I have to go, he said quickly. It's dark. Naruto opened his eyes. Hinata's were already half open. The kiss broke, and they smiled at each other. Naruto's forehead went against Hinata's. She smiled and then whispered, we should go. Sasuke and Sakura have been staring at us for a while since the kiss started. Naruto blinked and looked around him. At the place where Sakura and Sasuke had sat there was only air. What? And then stood in. I'll kick his ass. He looked around quickly, his head hitting Hinata's. Naruto! She shouted. He flipped his head around, hitting her again. Naruto! What? They left. She stepped back so she wouldn't get hit again. Kakashi and Kurenai sat in silence. This was earlier in the day before Naruto and Hinata. Sweat poured from both of their faces and Kakashi's mask was soaked. The lines in his face created by the sweat stood out. Kakashi, she said, her voice coming out as a whisper again. When did you develop these feelings for me? Last year, when you became a teacher, right before I got Naruto and his team. I met you briefly before that. It was love at first sight, at least on my side anyways. No, it was love at first sight for both. She smiled and kissed him lightly. Remember that meeting? Sakura looked at Sasuke. They were a block away from the bar. Half right? She said, her throat instantly drying out and her brain started to hurt. Yeah, can I go now? They were walking as Sasuke said this. He tried to hide his face in the shadows, knowing that light would show his blush. No, not until you explain yourself. Sasuke looked at her, stopping. Sasuke knew since they met, she'd grown into a woman, not the bratty girl he ignored. Or unlike Naruto, she'd matured. Sasuke hadn't. He was exactly like he was a year ago, and he sighed. Wow, what the hell does that mean? Sakura gave him a stupid look. Nothing. Never mind. Sakura. Sasuke hadn't been the one ever telling the other, he'd always been the receiver, not the giver, and he had ignored her each and every time. The world was closing down on him, and he didn't like it. Kakashi laughed. He shouted out another memory, and Kurenai and him laughed one last time. Good times, Kakashi, she smiled at him. They were sitting in a field, at the present time. Just like now, Kurenai, he moved his hand closer to hers and she placed hers on his. At the same time they both plopped back and looked at the stars as they started to move once again. Naruto looked back at Hinata. Well, it's late, what could we do now? Walk me home, she said smiling. Her face didn't even turn red. Naruto smiled. Let's go. Hinata, he said smiling. They walked out of the ramen bar as the angry bartender closed the store. Naruto? Why do you think Sakura followed us? You know. It's like she knew that we were going to be there. Sasuke too. I don't know, he said looking upwards at the sky. Well, maybe before I went to the bar, I talked to Sakura. It was this morning. Hinata stopped. Naruto took his hands out of his pockets as she said, about me? Yeah. He smiled at her. That's probably why she followed me the whole day. He smirked. Sasuke, well, who the hell knows anything about him anyways? Sasuke felt the sweat drip from his neck as Sakura finally got the answer. It blew her mind. I'm shy. When it comes to love. I'm usually the one being loved, so when. It's hard to say. He looked up at Sakura. Her face was calm and warm. You don't know what it's like, do you? She said as she smiled at him. Sasuke was hit with the gentlest thing he'd ever seen. Sasuke was forced to smile, but in a way, it was natural. For some reason he felt a sense of security, of freedom. Like he was in a confession. Nothing that was said there was ever going to be revealed. I don't get this, we shouldn't be smiling about. Like this. She giggled. Now you're laughing? He joked. Why, he was hit head-on, as Sakura cupped her hand over his mouth. Sasuke He felt what he needed to do, and Sakura moved her hand. She stopped right in front of him, looking a little upwards. I love you, she said whispering. Sasuke closed his eyes and smiled, then opened them as he said, I love you too, he said in the same tone. He then moved a little and kissed her lightly. But then Sakura held the kiss for a longer time. Sakura let the kiss go and smiled at Sasuke. You have no idea how long I wanted to get that off my chest, she said laughing. Sasuke laughed and agreed. Naruto walked back to his house, a smile on his face. It showed accomplishment and joy. He rewinded the whole night in his head, and smiled again and again at each thought. He looked up at the moon, sighing. Naruto thought if anyone else was staring at it, Kakashi and Kurenai were staring at it, talking their own ears off. Sasuke and Sakura did it as well, and Hinata did too. Everyone was asleep, and the day had been filled with firsts and seconds, and most importantly, everyone went home happy. The next day, Naruto flew up out of his bed, being woken from his alarm clock. He hit the floor and growled. He tried to get up again but hit his head on the table above him. Damn it! He stood up and tripped on a sock, hitting his end table again. 10 minutes later, after many cuts and bruises later, he managed to get to the kitchen alive. He put on his coat and sat in his chair, apparently waiting for service, but it never came. Naruto stood up and looked around, and then opened a cupboard and picked out some ramen. A couple minutes later he took a bite and his eyes bulged. Son of a bitch! He shouted, pointing his tongue out. burnt my tongue. What is it with this house and hating me? He took another bite and the taste of ramen, not heat, hit his lips and he smiled. Ramen! He'd been running on bits before that. Then the night before hit him in all one big memory. He could even smell her scent, he thought. His thinking was interrupted by a knock at the door, and he slowly and sloppily walked to the door. He looked at it and then Naruto said, "Yeah?" before having to open the door. "Hello?" "Erg. Fine, one section." He put his bowl in the sink and opened the door. Sasuke threw his kunai into the tree in front of him. It hit, and then silence hit the area. Cracks shot out of the tree and it collapsed. He smiled as Sakura said, "Still training?" The voice warmed his heart enough, but then she hugged him from behind, which was even more relaxing. "Yeah," Kakashi said, "we got the week off. Mom, you have to be ready for everything. It can, and will strike at the weirdest times. Even when you got the week off? Yeah, that sucks. He looked back at her as she let go of the hug. "I can't believe all that happened last night, and it's kind of hard to know it was reality, not a dream. You get the same feeling?" "No. Not really. But, sometimes." "I don't know, never mind that." Kakashi's eyes opened. He flew up and looked around. Kurenai was still sleeping beside him. "It's morning." Kurenai flipped over, still trying to sleep in the warm grass. "Well, so what? I don't know about you, but I gotta go." He yawned. "Bye." He stood up and walked towards town. "Kakashi," said Kurenai, still on her side. Kakashi stopped, and didn't turn around. "I'm in love with you." Kakashi made an inaudible laugh and said, I know. A minute later Kakashi reached town. He guessed it was about 10 a.m. He stopped and looked around, and noticed something was incredibly wrong. "Where is everybody? Who the hell are you?" said Naruto to the kid in front of him. By his immediate guess, he was his age. "I'm Io." The kid stared at Naruto, who returned a freaked-out look. The Io had crystal blue eyes that matched his hair. He wore a yellow jacket and dark blue pants. "Well, hi Io." He smiled. "I pronounced that right? Well, anyway, sup man? What's your business here? To kill you?" Naruto shouted a what, but before he could get it off he felt a fist in his stomach. Naruto flew back and his legs hit his couch and he fell back. He flipped off of the couch and hit the floor. He got up on his knees. "Who the hell are you?" Sweat poured from his hairline, and Io's unmoving expression made it worse. "I told you I'm Io. Why are you throwing punches and stuff, man?" Io didn't even twitch. Naruto reached for his kunai, and Io looked at his arm. "Why are you going to resort to using a weapon when I am not armed? So I can kick your ass?" said Naruto. "But do you need a weapon to assure yourself that you can do something? Can't you do it yourself? Without weapons?" Naruto gritted his teeth. "You pissin' me off. Why the hell can't you stay out of people's business?" He growled and he put his hand up, dropping the kunai. "Fine, no weapons, then charge." Io stepped inside the messy home. He smirked, the first expression he'd done. Naruto smiled and ran towards him. "Ha!" he said in a dull voice. Naruto felt a huge force hit him, and then blind numbing pain. Io's fist hit his chest, sending him into the kitchen, hitting a support beam. The house collapsed on both of them. Dust flew as everyone was startled by what they heard. Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke, and Hinata all heard the crash. Their attention flew to the center of the village, where Io's and Naruto's battle had begun, or ended, by what the circumstances were. Naruto stood up, slowly, but then with growing strength. He looked around the dust, as the situation flew back towards him, and he looked for his kunai. "No weapons here, little Naruto!" shouted Io as he flew through the dust, his fist once again hitting Naruto's soft stomach. Hearing bones break as Naruto jumped back, and then fell to the ground, Io laughed as he got out of position. "Naruto, I expected more from you. Why are you doing this?" Naruto spit out, with his last word half choked because of the blood. Its horrible taste started to hurt his throat. Across town, Kakashi felt something rise on him, and he started running towards where he had heard the sound. Everyone else, including Sakura, started to migrate to the position as well, as they could not find anyone in the town. Amusement for myself, and to test this village, and so far I have found no opponents. As you cannot see Naruto, bodies flood the ground. You are standing on one right now. They are dead, but you can't see them. Naruto looked around him, startled, like someone had just tapped him on the shoulder. I don't believe you, he grunted. The house's remaining parts started to fall as well, a board landing at Io's feet. Amusement, and testing us? Why would you want to? Not only testing you, said Io as he picked up the wood that had fallen, staring at its finer points. Testing me as well. I have trained for longer than you could imagine for this moment, to find the amazing Kakashi, and the other heroes of this village. You Hokage didn't offer much fight either. He sighed. But then, I heard a rumor, while killing last night, from someone in an alley. They didn't know I was there, but they said someone named Naruto was a mostly powerful demon fox. Naruto was caught off guard. He knew about the fox, but did not want to release it to test himself, or him. Io laughed. He said that the demon fox's name was Naruto, and that you lived where this house once stood. Naruto's surprise turned quickly into hate. After he said that, I killed him, and threw him away, like trash. He tossed the board to the ground. His name I remember was Irika. What did you say? Irika, was that someone close to you? Your father maybe? Naruto's anger dropped, as he opened his palms, staring at them. Ooh, big surprise there, Irika's dead. Ha! Naruto fell to his knees. This only increased Io's laughing. He walked towards Naruto, who used his weight to propel himself forward. He speared Io, knocking them to the street outside. They stopped as Naruto lay on top of Io laughing still. He was not taking him seriously, as he was laughing like a little child. Naruto got off of him, as I lay there, still chuckling. Stand? Ha ha ha. Sorry, I don't really mean this. But you should have seen the look on your eyes, it was priceless. Like a Kodak picture moment, only right there, and not stupid. Naruto speared him again, and then in slow motion. Naruto flew towards Io, who still, being an asshole, laughed. He reached to his left knee and opened his kunai pocket, throwing the piece of steel forwards at Io. Io threw his hands forward, catching Naruto's wrist. He laughed as he twisted it, and Naruto dropped the kunai. Naruto took the other hand and threw a punch, but Io just ducked. He kicked, and Io caught it. Nothing was working. What the hell? Sasuke sighed as he slowly walked towards where he had heard the crash. He heard something peculiar, a hissing sound. He stopped, looked around, and then suddenly a huge wind gust threw him from his feet. The chairs that were in the shops around him flew from their positions, and he could only watch them long enough till the dust hit him. Around town, except for Naruto and Io, this happened to everyone. As the dust settled, and they all stood up, they noticed something different. Bodies. They lay everywhere, blood everywhere. It was so much that it could scar you for life. Sakura screamed. Sasuke held his position. Kakashi started to run towards the sound faster, and Hinata joined Sakura's scream. Kneeling, Io looked at Naruto, and still tried not to laugh again. Naruto, my friend. Enemy. Whatever you prefer, I am not going to fight you if you don't take the fox out now. Naruto held his ground. Naruto? Are you listening? Yes. But I will not bring that out. Kakashi watched from a building high up. He thought to himself, Naruto, the fox? Oh yes, that fox. I'm going to have to stop this little fight, and figure out why all those bodies are there. They aren't illusions, they're villagers. You, child, shouted Kakashi. What is your business here and why have you killed the innocent? Io spotted Kakashi. Kakashi, I assume. You are the only hero from this village that I have not killed as of yet. Will you please come down and join Naruto's fight? Said Io. Kakashi jumped down, and then continued his questioning. What is going on here? A test of my abilities, and this village. So far no one has summed up. Maybe you will, because poor Naruto here hasn't. Kakashi stared into his eyes. They seemed so evil for someone so young. But then again, Naruto had faced a child of his age before, but Kakashi hadn't. Well, I can tell that there are more people coming here, so we might as well start the fight. He threw his hands forward, and everything turned white except for them. What is this? A fight, and all time is stopped. Time has not stopped. It is impossible, protested Kakashi. Io laughed and cut the laugh short as he pointed out his proof. Look behind you, Kakashi. Naruto turned around, and Kakashi did not. Not 30 feet away from them was Sasuke rounding the corner, frozen still, and also black and white. Naruto. What is it? Naruto walked towards him, slowly saying, Sasuke. Frozen still. I don't think he's lying, sir. Kakashi laughed, and told Io that he had some skills. If this is a fight, we should start it now. Io smiled, as his eyes grew darker, as if they could be any eviler. Just what I was thinking, said Io. But one thing, Mr. Hero, I will not use weapons, so I request that you will not either. Use your hands for once instead of your oh-so-powerful weapons. Kakashi crossed his arms together, concluding that Io's request was granted. The first move was thrown by Io, as he moved towards Kakashi, so fast though, that it seemed like he disappeared for the short second he moved. He appeared next to Kakashi, and threw a block punch, and a couple of cracks were heard. Kakashi held his fist, but his own hand was shaking. You're pretty strong, he said, holding his expression. This may be interesting. Io threw another hand up, with another block, and another crack. Kakashi jumped back, about 10 feet, no longer being able to hold any of his fists. Naruto stumbled off to the side, and then leaned up against the building, panting. His stomach came back to him, and the sensation of pain thrived throughout his upper body. Naruto felt like his ribs were broken, and that right now no one could help him. He was stuck in no time. Kakashi flinched, but hardly, at the pain he felt in his wrists. Pretty strong is a good quote for me, I think, said Io. But I think I broke your wrists, Kakashi. Kakashi stood up, unwilling to bear the weakness he was showing. I can fight without them. Kakashi whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. He devised a plan quickly in his head as Io got back into stance. He accepted it as Io started moving, and then he saw everything in slow motion. Io ran towards him, and threw a fist again, but it stopped and a kick flew up. Kakashi ducked and caught his leg at the thigh, then tripped Io, who threw his hand down to stop his fall. He threw a kick into Kakashi's side as Kakashi slammed his elbow into Io's heart. Simultaneously they both collapsed, gasping as blood drew from both their mouths. Time flew back as everything that had color returned to its natural state, and Sasuke tripped into the dirt. He stood up, and then looked at the scene before him. Naruto knocked out, Kakashi panting, and some kid he didn't know slowly standing up. Haha. Nice. You restored time, good for you. Io laughed as he glanced at Sasuke. Sakura came around the back corner with Hinata behind her. They had met on the way. She clutched her kunai close. Sakura, what's going on? Let me look. Sakura spotted Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi. The other kid, like Sasuke, she didn't know. The child and Kakashi suddenly started fighting. A fight. She whispered. Hinata threw her head around the building and witnessed the same thing that Sakura had seen. She gasped and then put her head back around the corner. What's wrong? Are we going to have to fight? The weakness in her voice was uncanny. She was afraid. I don't think so. This is only between Master Kakashi and that child. She stayed behind the building, trying not to get spotted. As she threw her head back behind it, Sasuke walked over to Naruto's aid, while keeping an eye on the fight. Naruto was slapped slightly, and he flew to attention. He looked over at Naruto, and asked what was going on. You were sleeping during the fight, said Sasuke. Just like you to do that. No, it's my ribs that hurt. A crash was heard. Io stood alone, and they looked around for Kakashi. Sakura gasped as she stared into the building to the right of her. The front window had broken, and the support beams were crumbling. Kakashi sat inside, with a puddle of blood to accompany him. She ran over to the building and Hinata followed her. Naruto shot up, running after them. His eyes followed Io, as Sasuke ran with him, doing the same. Io studied the scene, staring at them, and he followed what they did. They picked Kakashi up, Naruto beside Hinata, and Sasuke right next to Sakura. He laughed as he slowly threw his arms out. Kakashi shouted as he spotted what Io was doing. Black and white covered everyone except for Hinata and Sakura. Naruto amazingly stayed with them, not being stuck in pause with everyone else. He looked around. As Hinata's eyes grew small, Sakura reached for her kunai and held it tight. Io, seeing what had happened, devised a new plan. He laughed, everyone staring at him as if he were crazy. And he then acted, running again, so fast that it seemed as if he disappeared. He threw a punch into Hinata, his eye twitching as Naruto watched in horror. Hinata spit out blood instantly, and fell to the ground, dropping her own kunai. Naruto acted now, but Io held his hand up, and Naruto froze instantly, not in time, but just froze. A rain cloud appeared over his head, and he was drenched within seconds. Unable to move, and unable to help, Naruto just sat there. Io pushed his head down, so all he could see was dirt. Sakura, frozen in fear, finally moved. She threw her kunai at Io, who grabbed her hand, squeezing it, and laughing as he heard a snap. Sakura dropped it, and then suddenly pain shot throughout Io's body. Time flew back as he screamed, reaching for his leg to find Hinata's kunai in it. The end came out through the other end of his leg, bloody. Kakashi then acted, finding Io in a state of vulnerability. Kakashi ran up to Io, as quick as his feet could move him, and he jumped up, throwing his foot promptly into Io's neck. He heard a snap as Io collapsed to the ground, falling on his left side. Io slowly groaned, and reached for the kunai, amazingly. "How long does it take for you to die?" said Kakashi. "A long while," said Io as his voice collapsed on the last word. He spit blood out, and watched as it mixed with the dirt. His hand again reached for the kunai. Io touched it and then ripped it out, his left arm shaking as it moved through his bone. "I thought we agreed on no weapons. That was before they were in the battle, or before you put them into it. This is of your own cause, not mine." Kakashi held his composure, even though he had the heavy burden of 2 broken wrists. "What did you do to Naruto? That?" Io stood up slowly as he continued. "It's a rainstorm, made by him. He is the only one to get out of it. But he can't get out of it if he can't move." "That I did." Kakashi walked to him, face to face. "Turn him back, take the paws off." Kakashi wished his wrists weren't broken. If they weren't, he'd have strangled him by now. "No. It can't be stopped. He's stuck like that unless I myself turn him back." I just thought of something, He was talking to Sakura. "Turn his head upwards, so he can see what's going on." "Sakura, you don't have to take orders from him," Kakashi almost immediately said afterwards. "I know, master," she said as she reached into the cloud, and moved Naruto's head. In the rain, Naruto sat, wet and miserable. He stared at the ground, mad, his eyes almost popping from his head. His blonde hair had fallen to his eyes, and he felt like his nose was a waterfall. He felt his head move up magically, till he felt the touch of someone's soft hands. He faintly saw the scene before him. Naruto locked his eyes on Io, and never let them leave him. Sasuke, finally starting to catch up to the situation, looked over at Naruto, and Sakura as she wiped her hands on her clothing. Hinata had already stood up, and she was watching the scene too, as was Naruto, from what he could see. He wished he could do something for Kakashi to help him with the fight, but now it seemed like it was over, and he had done nothing to help it. "As you see, Mr. Kakashi, if I can have the ability to say that," said Io, "this is only the beginning." He laughed as he reached his ankle, and it drew no blood, and there was no hole. It was a perfectly normal ankle. In times of war, enemies usually go for the things that matter the most, in terms of possession, defense, and what their opponents love most. That is true even here, Mr. Kakashi. So you see, I have not taken any of these, so it's not over yet. "How is that so?" Kakashi queried. "You have broken wrists, 2 of them. The demon fox is stuck in his place, and those other 3, well, they have no use." This struck a nerve. "What are you talking about?" said Sasuke. "You've never seen me fight, so you cannot judge so soon." Io's eyes glowed as he smiled and continued his speech. "Then go ahead and join us. Jump in the fight, master," he said to Kakashi. "If you wish," said Kakashi, as he held his position. Io smiled. The glow in his eye stayed as he started the fight. He threw his fist at Sasuke, who was confused by what had just happened, and how fast he had moved, who was hit. He fell to the ground, as if his feet jumped from their places, and Io acted then. He jumped over him, and then ran for Hinata, spotting her directly. First, he threw his fist into her stomach again, and Hinata, finally seeing Io, tried her kunai, but Io, now more intelligent with the situation, stopped her hand in its place. He removed his fist from her stomach and grabbed her kunai, as Sakura and Kakashi then moved. Sakura threw her kunai at him with her left hand, ignoring her hurt right hand. He blocked it with Hinata's kunai, and with his other hand held Hinata in place, who was unconscious. Kakashi used his foot, throwing a kick up at Io, who first knocked it away, threw his kunai back to block another slash from Sakura, and then noticed that it was a useless kick, and Kakashi whirled around, throwing all his strength into his next kick. Io's brain came with a solution, and he came off of Sakura's block. His kunai ripped into Kakashi's foot, first the heel, and then all up his shin, and ending at his bone. It had cut deep through. Kakashi hit the ground as he gasped and held his leg, wincing in pain. Sakura, distracted by the blood, was punched directly in the face, knocking her into the wall, and making her unconscious. Now, with only Io and Hinata left, disclosing Naruto, Io finally got the situation he wanted. He held the kunai up, and stared into Hinata's closed eyelids. He thought for a long second, as Naruto kept his watch. From what he could see, Io's hand shaked, and he then threw the kunai into Hinata's throat, blood covering the wall behind her, and covering his hand with blood, dripping its red glow. Naruto's heart stopped for a second, and his anger grew, his arms shaking, amazingly. His eye twitched as the fox inside him started to let loose. His chakra pushed past the spell that Io had set forth, one that no human could ever pass, until now. Io smiled as he let Hinata's body drop. His smile dropped as Naruto came out of the spell, and the cloud dropped. The fox Naruto stood tall, his eyes a fiery red, his lines on his face darker and larger, and an everlasting need to kill Io. Haha. I won't tell you how we'll get more Naruto Hinata scenes, but yes, they'll happen. Naruto! Shouted Kakashi. Stop! Let the fox leave you. Do not kill him. He has never killed anyone. Everyone in this village is not dead, are they? Io? What? Said Io. He was a whole new person. He looked around, finding his new surroundings, and then gasping, what are you talking about? Fear turned to anger. Naruto stood, following his leader's orders. You didn't kill them, did you? I watched the movements in your hand, they are of inexperience. Kakashi slowly stood, his strength all on his unhurt leg. No. I didn't kill anyone, Io said slowly. Naruto studied his face, and his mind reading what he thought, his eyes as if they were on Io. Tension arose, this time higher, as Io made the fatal mistake that Kakashi was hoping to catch. I didn't kill anyone, Kakashi. Kakashi sighed as he said, Naruto, if you want, kill him. What? I didn't kill anyone, Io pleaded. If you did not, and the only way you couldn't have done it is if some kind of ninjutsu had taken you over and taken your abilities from you. But if this had happened, you wouldn't have known. You would not have known my name. Io knew that he was cornered in between a strong ninja and an even stronger fox. He acted, knowing that it was over, and tried to catch Naruto off guard, and threw a punch. Naruto caught it with ease as a glow surrounded him. He held Io's hand up, against one's will, and then threw a punch into his stomach. Io did not move though. All was silent, the wind hurled through the empty town, and Sasuke, after standing up, stared at Naruto's blood-stained fist through Io. It reached inside his body, and then made itself back to the outside, where the blood glimmered in the sun. Through all the silence, a laugh was heard. Naruto's eyes stared into Io's as Io laughed at him. This man could not die, no matter what he tried. The fox instantly left him, as if it had sucked itself inside of him, and his hand fell from the hole inside of Io. He then fell, looking up at Io, who still laughed at him. He walked forwards, and then said, that little innocent act almost fooled you all. I did that on purpose, and as you have found out it was an act, you are sharper than I expected, Kakashi. Don't underestimate your opponent, Kakashi added. I won't, you are all going to die eventually. I cannot die. He laughed, and then jumped over to Kakashi, who he speared. Sasuke ran to his aid, and as he got to Io, was punched in the chin, so quickly and so fast that neither he or Io knew that he had fallen until a second later. Naruto stood slowly, and looking at Hinata's dead body, his anger turned to despair, and despair turned to his fate. Io, Naruto said. If you cannot be killed, and I've seen just that, then kill me now. Naruto let his hands fly open, and Io laughed at this opportunity. Naruto! Shouted Sasuke. Kakashi sat silent. Naruto was only doing the honorable thing. He thought he had lost, so he was willing to die for it. Io jumped forward, throwing out a kunai, Hinata's own kunai, and threw it at Naruto. It flew through the air, until it suddenly stopped. It fell to the ground, as if it had been a bird in flight, which then died and landed on the ground to be its deathbed. What the hell? Said Io as he walked forward to where it had stopped, or where he estimated where it had fallen. His hand reached through the empty space. Naruto just gave him a blank look, staring forward, not even knowing what had happened. The day turned to night, as if the sun had fallen from the sky. The night turned on so suddenly. Lights all around them on the surrounding buildings flickered on, and a figure appeared in front of Io. Iruka stood not 3 inches from Io. Io jumped back, landing back first. Iruka said slowly, not as if he was a ghost, but as if it were him, just angered. Io, you said your name was. You said that you could not die. But Io, I want you to know, you cannot die from a living thing. That was the curse put on you, and that does mean a living thing. He held his kunai up. What are you getting at? The villagers are here to kill you, simply put. And when we do, we'll be free alive again. He smiled as he said it. The villagers walked up forward, their own figures showing in the dark, and Naruto turning from his depressed mood to now a happy one. Kakashi smiled, looking at what he thought was not there, but he knew that his eyes did not deceive him. Yo, looks like this is your end. Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata and Sakura. Naruto walked over to Hinata's body. He felt the emotions running at him as he kneeled down to get at level with her. Naruto, said Sasuke as he kneeled as well, I want you to watch Io die first. There is something that you may want to know. When Io dies, everyone he kills comes back. It's part of that curse thing that Iruka was talking about. She's not going to be dead forever, like most. Naruto acknowledged that, and then said, yeah, but I do not want to ever see this again. Not for her, only for the enemy. But then again, Io's enemy was her. I don't know what to think, I just want her back. His voice was soft, caring, and faint. Time to go, Io, said Iruka as the village people, with their weapons, pitchforks, knives, the regular things that farmers or other villagers would have around the town. Io looked at them angrily, and he ran towards them, screaming a battle chant. He threw his fist at one, and it went through. He felt pain as his back arched and a kunai dug itself deeper into his skin. He collapsed as the rest of the villagers surrounded him, kicking and stabbing him with whatever they had. Dust collected, and when it came down, the villagers were gone, as was Io. It was mysterious, and very creepy. It had happened so fast and so fast gone away, that no one really knew how to recover. The night went on, and Naruto started to lose hope on Hinata coming back. They stayed at a house close to where the battle had happened. He finally went to sleep after staying at the coffee table for hours, and when he awakened, he walked outside, hearing everyone talking. Naruto put his hand on the handle and stopped thinking for a second. He turned around and woke up the wounded Kakashi, who limped to the doorway. Sasuke and Sakura were woken up too, and they helped Kakashi to the doorway. Naruto opened the door. After holding the handle to the farthest it would go, it shot back as the light poured in, and by instinct Naruto put his hand up to block it. The long walk of blindness occurred as all talking stopped, and Naruto put his hand down, seeing the crowd in front of him. They were all facing the opposite direction, but in a small second he had to himself to access the situation. He recognized some of them. Naruto, said a voice. The crowd turned around and everyone in the village cheered for them. It was as loud as anything that they had heard before, and it happened for almost 3 minutes. The day had awakened again, After the ghostly attack that had killed Io, the birds flew and chirped their unwritten songs, the floor grew in the burning sun, and the wildlife went along as if nothing had happened. The cheer died as Kakashi said, "You are all alive. Irika. Where do you lurk these days?" Irika walked through the crowd, as it characteristically moved to let him through. He spoke to Kakashi, while keeping his eyes on Kakashi's bandages. Sakura and Naruto poorly wrapped them, and a little blood had soaked through. They went all through his leg, one strip going over another and so on. "Kakashi! We have a lot to talk about. And on the other side, I thank you for freeing us." "Freeing you?" Kakashi asked. "You were the ones who saved our lives. We should be thanking you, by the way, team. Please." "Thank you," Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto all said in succession. Irika smiled as he continued. "No, actually, if it weren't for you, I'd never have found the true weakness to Io. But we will need to talk in private so you'd get all the details. I wouldn't want to bore all of you, so continue the celebration." The crowd cheered again as it split up, and the festival began. Naruto instantly went to the ramen bar. Some of the villagers followed him and shook his hand, others sitting down to eat ramen. People came and went, and Hinata walked through the crowd. She sat down beside Naruto, and slowly put her hand on his cheek, gently. He stopped, as if he had been shot, and the shock with it. Naruto looked up at Hinata, and looked straight into her eyes. Loving and warm they were, and they caused Naruto to say, "You're alive." Again. She smiled insecurely. "I want you to come with me, to Irika-sensei and Kakashi's talk. You must have explained what I was, otherwise you won't know what happened clearly. Then you would not have a good story to tell your grandchildren." She smiled, this time confidently. "Irika, tell me what I had to wait for till now," said Kakashi. There were Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto, Hinata, and Irika, inside Irika's home. They all stood up, waiting for Irika's answer, except Hinata. This was 3 days later, after the festival. Irika smiled as he sighed. His answer came out, "The other day, when Io attacked, he killed me during the night, when his attack began. The only ones who survived were you all, Kakashi and his friend, because they were outside the village when the attack began. And the same is for Hinata, she too was outside the village. I was thinking, so I took a walk." Hinata said. "Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, you were spared because of your team. You all were considered very strong from this village. With Io, well, he was cursed a while ago, in fact, during the time of the second Hokage. He was about the age of Naruto's team, and he was sent on a D-class mission. The details of the mission I didn't find out, but something went wrong, and the wrong people attacked them. One thing led to another, and Io was killed. He lay there for almost a year before he was found by an enchanter, and she brought him to life, at his current age. She made him invincible, almost, and gave him godly strength. She kept him under her wing, and trained him through what she had learned as a child, teaching him techniques, and such. Like all things under his power, he rebelled and killed her. This is still under the second Hokage's turn, by the way. Well, years passed, and he kept training, over and over and over again. Why wouldn't you when you could not die? After our time was reached, he started to think, and he decided to test himself, seeing his power. He was not strong enough for this village, since before he reached you guys, he should have died 14 times. That night before he attacked, he put a spell under the village, and all were silent. No one would wake, only the strongest would and did. He ran into a problem when he noticed how strong our defenses were, and in the dead of night, since he could not die, we slowly were picked off. The next day came and well, you guys picked up from there." Irika finished his speech as Naruto asked a question. "Wait, how did he get killed in a D-class mission? Did he suck or something?" said Naruto. "No. His team was ambushed by raiders. They were much stronger than Io's team and he was killed, that's simple." Naruto looked at him, confused, but still accepted the answer. "Okay, I have another question. Why were you all turned around when I opened the door the other day?" We kind of practiced for that. It was for dramatic effect." He smiled as he put his hand to the back of his head. The sun went down as Naruto and Hinata sat on the edge of a cliff. They talked about random topics, and Naruto kept thanking the fact that she was alive. She smiled and looked into his eyes, and he put his arm around her, gently hugging her. You never know when something completely unexpected will happen. So take advantage of what you have now. It's midday, with the gleaming sun shining its yellow light, and Naruto running upstairs. He's already almost to the top of the mountain. He gasped and panted as he put his hand on the railing at the top. He looked down at the village, staring at its size and beauty. As you can tell, he was on top of the mountain that housed the Hokage's carvings. Kiba stared upwards at the sky, thinking, and standing in the middle of the market. People shoved and pushed into him regularly, but this is where he wanted to think. He knew what he was going to do, but he didn't know how to. He had known her for so long, and he had wanted to say what he wanted to say for so long. Sighing, he finally came up with his plan, formulating it so quickly that he could only call it ingenious. Akamaru barked at him. What? It's nothing. He walked out of the market. He walked around the town, looking for either Hinata or Shino. Doing this, the days slowly went by. Sasuke sat down at a cafe with Sakura. They were both silent for a second, and Sakura then started the situation over. How did it feel? She said slowly. Feel? What? Said Sasuke. You know, over Yo, he was pretty much one of the first to defeat you, besides Master Kakashi. He half grunted. Sasuke then saw the waiter walk towards their table. I'll tell you in a second. The waiter stopped at their table and asked what they wanted. Just water. Yeah, me too, Sakura said. The waiter looked at them both, glancing at the curse seal on Sasuke's neck. Excuse me, sir, said the waiter. Can I ask you where you got that mark on your neck? Sasuke gave him a bad look, instantly telling him no. He stood up and left the table, Sakura giving the waiter an angry look before she left as well. The waiter watched them leave. He then turned back into the cafe, running into Naruto. Hey, said Naruto. I've been at my table for like 3 minutes. Can I get some service? I'll be there in just a second, sir. I can get your order then. Naruto looked up into his eyes, angry, but accepting, and he walked over to his table. He sat down with Hinata. She stared at the menu, and Naruto soon followed her. No ramen. How did it go with the waiter? She asked slowly. Bastard was all like, go back to your table. Like they don't even serve their customers. If I was a food critic, I'd give this place like a 2 or something. He angrily threw the menu down to the table. Naruto. What? In our paper they do reviews on a 3-point scale. The waiter stopped at the table and pulled out a notepad and a pen. What would you like, sir? And Ms.? He said unwillingly. Naruto looked quickly through the menu again, until he found what he wanted. A chicken sandwich. I'd like the sucky chicken sandwich with the sucky water that you serve here. If I find hair in it, said Naruto. Then he thought for a second. Or spit. Hinata half smiled at his remark and then found what she had looked at a second ago. She quickly ruled it out for a second and decided to go with Naruto's order. I'd like what he wanted, she said. Okay, so you both want our sucky chicken and our sucky water, alright. The waiter added up the bill and threw it onto the table and walked away, happy that he had finally gotten away from Naruto. Can you believe those people? If he doesn't like people, he shouldn't be a waiter, said Naruto. He looked over onto the street. It was sundown already, and the sun had started to fall asleep. So, how did your day go? He said, trying to get off the topic. Alright, said Hinata, focusing on something that was walking towards them. Naruto followed her eyes, and the object, which was walking with the sun behind it, turned out to be Kiba. He laughed as he sat down with the both of them, pulling a chair out of another table. So how are you guys? Naruto, said Kiba. Naruto instantly turned from trying to be the nice guy and changed the topic back into his mad face. Kiba looked at him, and then back at Hinata. What are you guys doing? About to eat, said Naruto. It was all fine until you showed up. Well, besides that damn waiter. Sakura walked with Sasuke. They had been in silence for almost 10 minutes. This is my house, said Sasuke. Sakura was about to say something before he interrupted her. I'll see you tomorrow. She sighed as his door shut, and she walked the opposite direction. She looked up into the moon as it started to glow through the falling sun. Why can't you just leave? said Naruto, after spending half an hour listening to Kiba talking. No one likes you anyways. Akamaru barked at him, and Kiba laughed. Shut up, I don't have to leave, you're not my boss. Akamaru stood on the table growling at Naruto. Naruto grabbed the rest of his chicken sandwich and stood up. I'll see you tomorrow, Hinata. Hinata, who hadn't said a word since Kiba had come, stood up as well. I'm sorry, Kiba. I've got to go. Kiba turned around in his seat to watch them walk away. The waiter walked up to the table, looked at Kiba. They're together, you know, said the waiter, wiping the table, moving around Akamaru. So I wouldn't do that again if I were you, but that's just me. Kiba looked at the man in a little bit of shock, and then stood up, Akamaru following him by jumping off the table. This allowed the waiter to wash the rest of the table. Kiba stared forward thinking, damn, he said. Is 3 days after the cafe incident. Naruto stood, blood pouring from the side of his face. His clones disappeared as the dust settled. He walked forward, and then started to run towards his enemy. Kiba and Akamaru, who had taken the form of Kiba, waited for him to strike. As soon as Naruto got close enough, they performed the Getsuga, knocking Naruto back with some new cuts and bruises. You can't win, no fart is going to help you this time. Kiba's eyes glowed a fiery red. You stole her from me. She was mine to begin with. Naruto stood up tall again and then said, there is no need for all of this destruction. Around them, fire burned. Yes, there is. Kiba's voice then started out as nothing more than a whisper, but then grew with strength till it became a shout. He then started to walk towards Naruto. She's on my team, I acknowledge her. I know her a lot more than you. We've been on life-risking missions together. And what have you done? What? Cheer for her, beat some guy up. That's nothing compared to the things I've done for her. By now they were arm's length apart. Rage built up in Kiba as he threw a punch at Naruto. Naruto ducked and kicked Kiba's shin, sending him down. Naruto caught him in a headlock before he could taste the dirt. Give up, Kiba. No! He reached for his kunai, and Naruto too, almost simultaneously. Then the race to see who could stab began. Shino walked onto the scene, his jacket and face scuffed up, dirty. Fire surrounded the both of them, Naruto and Kiba, as they were fighting in the marketplace. Akamaru turned back into his dog form as he ran up to Kiba as the blood spilled. Both Naruto and Kiba were on their knees, only their own weight holding them up. Thank God that you went through everyone else before you got to me, you're exhausted, said a voice as Shino ran up to help them. 3 days before. Starting off right where chapter 9 ended. I can tell that you like that woman, Hinata, I heard her name was. I can help you get her, if you want me to help, said the waiter as he cleaned a table near Kiba. Kiba kept his eyes forward, Akamaru looking up at him, whining. He looked down at Akamaru, and then at the waiter. Who are you? What's your name? He acknowledged what Akamaru was saying, which was that this man was bad. He didn't know what to think of it, but he knew only one way to go find out what it was. Spinichi. Kiba turned completely around and then looked up at the moon. The table's covering, which was about 5 feet taller than Kiba, protected most of the light, but he could see the small glow of the moon. Are you going to have me help or not? Don't make me take you by force. Kiba shot his attention back down to this man. What could you do? You're just a waiter. Akamaru started to whine some more, jumping up at him, and Kiba finally released what Akamaru was telling him. Kiba started to slowly walk away. Please don't run. Suddenly Kiba's body started to run, without his acceptance. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't. Akamaru quickly caught up with him as the man threw his hands out, Ebishi no Jutsu. Kiba stopped, and then turned around slowly. He couldn't move at his own will. What is this? A force slammed into his chest as he was knocked out. Akamaru fainted as well. Naruto flew through his door, half running straight into it, and half opening the handle. He hit the ground as he pulled on his jacket. Lying down, he then jumped up again, and ran forwards. He stopped at the ramen bar and panted, looking up at the sign in front of him. Half-price ramen. For the whole day. That's 20 ramen for the price of 10, he laughed as the cook threw a bowl in front of him. Shino had sweat pouring from his hairline. He walked up to Naruto and sat down beside him, ordering some ramen. Naruto. Naruto finally came up from his bowl and looked at him. Shino. What's up? I have something that I need to ask you. I'd ask Hinata or Kiba, but I can't find them anywhere. Naruto, what would you say if? He thought for a long second. Shino? Nothing, never mind. He walked away, his hands in his pockets, and his mind pondering. Naruto looked at the bowl beside him that Shino had left, and he quickly took it. Hinata sat down beside Naruto. Naruto, she said. Naruto looked up from Shino's bowl and smiled. Hi. Hey, what's up? Shino was just here. Where'd he go? Shino was about a block away. He threw his back to a wall, sliding down it till he hit the ground. He couldn't think of anyone that he could talk to about it. His mind played through hundreds of names, sorting through them, thinking of who would be open enough to say something wise about it. His mind finally came down to one name that he felt confident with. Sakura, he said as he stood up. Anyways, said Naruto, ordering Hinata a bowl. He checked off the sheet and handed the order to the cook. I love this place. You don't even have to talk to the cook before he knows the order. You know what time it is? Hinata looked around. I don't know, sorry. Naruto then took the paper back and wrote down, what time is it? And then clipped it to the circular device that went around the ramen bar. Eventually, after all the orders that were in front of him, his paper would reach the cook and he would make the order. More than just Naruto was there for the sale after all. So what do you want to do today? Said Naruto smiling. Kiba awoke, his eyes blinded. He quickly looked around, without seeing anything, and his vision slowly came back. Light poured through everywhere, and he went back to the ground. He was fully capable of moving now. The green slowly showed through, and he guessed it to be grass. He looked around and Kiba noticed he was in a green field. He noticed that his jacket was off, and quickly found it next to him. Then the next missing thing hit him, Akamaru. His head shot around, looking and trying to find the dog. Akamaru! He shouted, nowhere to be seen. With nothing else to do, besides trying to find Akamaru, he stood up and then started running towards the village, which showed up over the trees. Halfway through the field, Kiba tripped to the ground, sliding in the wet grass. He stood on his knees, panting and sweating. He gasped as he looked up. A circle on his forehead started to glow. Kiba shook, his head swirling, the distorted image of the world spinning around him. He felt as if he were just in space, then floating. A cloud appeared above him, and his head shot up, staring at the storm above him. The rest of the day sat, tranquil in its own ignorance, not knowing what lay above it. He tripped, flying back once again into the wet grass. Kiba's eyes followed the length of a blade of grass, following it up to the top, where a small puddle of water lay. It fell off of the small piece of grass, the blade shooting back to its spot. Kiba painted, as he held his stomach, and then to his head, the circle on his forehead glowing more and more, till it died out. He stood to his full height, stroking his hair, feeling the wetness, not knowing if it were sweat or the water from the grass. What the hell? Was that? The town was his nearest exit to get away from what had just happened. Shino stepped up to Sakura, her back to him, and he said slowly, Sakura? She turned around. They were in the marketplace, where Sakura was buying some fruit, for reasons he did not know. Shino, what a surprise, Sakura said. Courage built up inside of Shino till he sighed and then finally gasped it out. Sakura. I don't know who to tell this to, besides the person I really want to hear it from, but I'm afraid. He looked away from her. Sakura was a bit shocked by his opening like this. Afraid of what? She said. That she would say no, that everything would go wrong. Like this. Shino put his back to the wall close to them and bent to the ground, finally sitting on it. He put his knees to his chest and stared directly into them. This isn't going wrong, said Sakura as she sat down with him to put herself at his level. What is it that you want to say to her? Who is she? Shino looked over to her, and she noticed the sweat on his forehead. Shino sighed as he stared into the air. Her name is Yamanaka Ino. Sakura's eyes bulged as she looked into his sunglasses. A bit of shock rose on her as she stood up, shaking off the loose dirt. Ino. A sense of humor almost reached her lips. Why her? Shino looked up at her. If I knew, I would tell you, but I'm just attracted to her. Sakura looked past the sunglasses, looking at him from his side, and she stared into his eyes. Can you help me? Sakura smiled. Yeah. Naruto and Hinata walked through the streets of the village, smiling and laughing. I know, said Naruto as he turned the street corner, Kuro standing in front of them. They stopped, Naruto holding an ice cream cone, Hinata too. Kuro wasn't his normal self, his hair was wet, and his shirt was full of sweat. Hinata, he said, gasping. His breath was really short, forcing him to breathe over and over again, faster and harder each time. Naruto gave him a dirty look as Hinata looked into his eyes, Kiba starting to speak again. Akamaru. Duh, I can't find him. I've been looking everywhere for him. Can you help me find him? Is that why you're short of breath? Said Hinata. Have you been running around, looking for him? Kiba shook his head yes, slowly. Hinata looked over to Naruto, who was looking the opposite way. Naruto. It's the least we can do. His friend is missing. A dog is missing, it happens every day. How is this one different? Said Naruto, looking up to the sky. Because I know it. Said Hinata, putting her hands on Naruto's shoulder. She turned him around to Kiba, who continued to pant. How long will you be out of breath? Geez. Kiba stood up fully and then took a deep breath, and instantly, his shortness of breath was gone. Naruto gave him an odd look, and then walked out in front of them. Fine. We'll find your damn dog. Hinata said goodbye to Kiba as she caught up with Naruto. Thank you, Naruto, she said, smiling. Naruto looked back over to her, and smiled back. Kiba stared at the both of them leaving, and he walked the same way they had come. He walked inside a building, opening the door to a dark house. Kiba flicked on the light, Akamaru running up to him barking with delight to see him home again. Naruto stopped, looked around, and found an old man sitting on a bench. Sir? Said Naruto, walked towards him. The man spit out a what, and Naruto continued. Do you know a kid named Kiba? Kiba. Yeah, lives down the street over there, a good kid. Was just walking down the road, then went to his house. Naruto looked up the road, at the side of Kiba's home. Did you say walk? Or run? Walk, he was just here, didn't you hear me? Must be one of those deaf kids. Always thinking they are so special. Naruto walked back to Kiba's house, Hinata worrying, thanking the old man for his time. Naruto, said Hinata, stopping him, 10 feet from Kiba's household. Naruto turned around and looked at her. Naruto. Stop. Kiba probably has asthma, you never know. Why would he lie to us? Naruto laughed. That's what I want to know, and that's why I'm going to ask him. He continued on till he reached Kiba's doorknob, and he turned it, knocking on the door as he went in. Kiba was in the kitchen, petting Akamaru, who stood on the table. The kitchen was the nearest to the door, and the most visible place if you were standing in the doorway, where Naruto stood. Hey! Did you find Akamaru? He said, trying to be polite as long as he could. Yeah, just ran up to the door. You know how smart canines are, they can always find their way home. Naruto smiled and agreed as he let himself inside the house. I want to ask you something, Kiba. He put his hands down on the table, and then took a seat. Kiba followed him. Why did you lie to us? Hinata walked inside the doorway. Lie? What are you talking about? Kiba's eyes grew more serious. That old man, on the side of these buildings that yours is connected to, said that you were walking down the street, not running. Why were you out of breath? Did you just do something that took a lot of chakra? Kuro felt a headache. I'm sorry, you guys gotta go. I'm getting a really bad headache. He stood up, Naruto too. Hinata walked back out of the doorway as Naruto followed her outside. I'm sorry, I'll talk to you tomorrow. He shut the door. Inside, Kiba tripped onto the table, causing the chairs to fall back and the table falling to its side. Kiba followed the chair till it hit the floor. Akamaru, who had jumped off in time, walked up to him. He sniffed Kiba, and then backed up. He started to bark, and then growled. Shut up, mutt! Kiba's hands flew into the dog. Am I the reason you laugh? Or am I the reason you cry? Today's quote comes from the song Always by Saliva. Kiba stood up, smiling. He walked out the door, going to the corner and walking around it. He flew back to his side. Looking down the street, Sakura walked with Shino, and Naruto and Hinata were behind them. Naruto, thought Kiba. Damn, he ran back into his house. Shino tried to think over his decision, but he knew he was in too far. Okay, first off, you go to her house, where we're going now, and you ask her out, that's simple. But then again, it isn't. First you must distract her with chocolate and flowers, and a gift of some sort. You have those? Shino broke a weak smile as he said no. Alright, well, Naruto. She stopped. Naruto, who was too absorbed in his own conversation, kept talking as he stopped. He stopped, and looked over at Sakura. What is it? I'm trying to tell Hinata when I kicked Gaara's ass. You didn't kick his ass. First off, you both fought it out respectively, and it was a tie. Where did you get your flowers when you had your first date with Hinata? That was so cute. Naruto's face reddened up as Shino's eyebrows lifted. Naruto sighed as he handed her a card. On the corner of Yamakasi and Saratobi, number 58, it's called Flower Bonanza. Sakura took the card happily and pushed Shino forward. I never knew Naruto was a soft kind of guy, said Shino as Naruto and Hinata went the other way. Kiba watched Shino and Sakura walk past the door, looking through the glass to the side of it. As soon as he thought that it was safe enough, he turned the handle, walking into the daylight. He sighed as Sakura laughed behind him. I never knew that there were so many Team 7 members around here. Why don't you come with me and Shino? We're going flower shopping. She whispered the last part of the last sentence. Shino looked around, his own face now red. No thanks, I really have some stuff to do, said Kiba. Sakura ignored him as she pushed him in front of her, forcing him to go with his partner. Kakashi sighed as he looked around at the town, staring through the crowds of people. Days like this, he thought, make me think that I should get back to what I was doing before that whole EO thing. He left his post at the side of a building and walked towards the setting sun. Naruto, said Hinata. Hinata looked up from the ramen bowl. Hinata twirled the noodles around. I don't know why. But I don't think that Kiba really approves of us. Naruto smiled. Who would care really? He said. Hinata looked out to the sky. It was turning red. I once heard in a movie that when the sun sets so early, and it turns that red, that the next day was either to be very violent or bad. Naruto took notice of this and twirled his chair around. He sat studying the sky. He looked back at the clock that the ramen cook had previously installed, and it read 4 o'clock. In June, Shino, said Ino, standing at her doorway. A long silence occurred as Shino and Ino stared at each other. Sakura looked from an open doorway, using the door as his shield. Kiba stood in front of Sakura, watching Sakura. Ino. I would like you to. Sakura smiled as she watched the scene in front of her. Kiba sighed. I'm leaving. Sakura was too absorbed in Shino and Ino to worry about Kiba. He walked off, turning at the first corner. He noticed the ramen bar and sat down at the cafe, which was across the street from it, and the only reason Naruto found it was to take Hinata there. I would like to. For you two. Go out on a. Ino's eyes started to grow as she heard the words go on. She started to assess the situation, trying to figure out what she was going to do. She already knew what Shino was going to say, but then Sasuke came into her mind. As Shino continued, struggling on, Ino noticed something that she hadn't before. Sasuke had never noticed her, not even a hi, or a bye, or a hello. She was hopelessly running for a goal she could not cross. She sighed as Shino stopped. Is there something wrong? You've been standing there for about 30 seconds. What? Oh, say that again? Would you go on a date with me? Shino brought out the flowers and candy. Ino smiled as she shook her head up and down as fast as it would go. Sakura smiled and clapped, feeling happy that Shino had gotten what she had set him up for. She walked away, feeling the confidence that she could do that with any two persons. The sun fell again, letting the moon rise on its own day. The stars started to let out their own glow as Kiba opened his door, looking around at the street around him. He put his hand on the drain pipe to the right of the door, and then put his other hand on it, and started to climb up it. Once he reached the top of his house, about 20 feet in the air, he ran across the roofs of the houses connected to his. He stopped at the end of the block and put his hands out, whispering some words. The tiles on the roof instantly caught on fire as he ran to the left side of the block and hopped the 15 feet to the other side. This was clearly not Kiba's abilities. Naruto slept in his bed, going through whatever dream he was going through. He laughed as a red glow went through his window. A voice rang out, for the voice was cut off, but it was enough to wake Naruto. He slowly went to the window, wiping his eyes. A blurry image first appeared, red and orange, and then after he was done rubbing his eyes he noticed the situation. Kiba stood on top of a man, removing his kunai from the man's neck. Fire was all around him, and that meant Naruto's house. Naruto jumped back, and ran to his door. He put his hand on the handle, and then shot it back off after he felt the burning metal. He ran back into the middle of the room and a number of possibilities ran through his head. He ran towards his window, and Naruto broke through the glass, falling 10 feet to the ground. Kiba turned around, smiling. Naruto! Glad you joined the party. If you run in a circle, don't feel like you aren't going anywhere, because you are. You're going in a circle. This happens on the second night, in case anyone has forgotten the time. Kiba, why did you kill that man? Said Naruto, his arm twitching. And where did the fires come from? His voice was deep and serious. Kiba laughed as he told him the answer. These fires are mine. I just killed that man because he went through the jutsu I used. And apparently you missed it too. But on another note, look at the fire, isn't it beautiful? I mean, fire is like life. Right now it is in its prime, burning anything that happens to come in its path. Naruto, you are fire, but all fire has one weakness, water. Kiba started to walk towards Naruto, continuing. I am that water. And you are that fire. You are going to die, as is this town. Do you think of yourself as Orochimaru? Said Naruto as he reached for his kunai. Not completely as him, because he never succeeded. Kiba jumped forward as Naruto joined him. Kiba went forward as Naruto stopped. He ducked down as quickly as he could, tripping the fast-moving Kiba. He jumped back up as Kiba stood. Damn it! Shouted Kiba as his hand flew up, fire flying from his palms, engulfing Naruto. Akamaru whined as he walked behind Kiba. Kiba shot around as Naruto slowly stood, groaning. Kiba bent down to Akamaru, staring into his eyes. A shock went through him as he fell forward onto the ground, all the fire around them instantly falling, as if it had never happened. The only resemblance that the fire was there was the complete destruction around them. Naruto stood, holding his wounds. His jacket was ripped and burnt, a bit of ash still burning on parts of it. He walked up to Kiba, staring at the child in front of him. Akamaru licked Kiba's face, trying to awaken him. That was not Kiba, that was a monster. Kiba is not a monster, thought Naruto as he collapsed, falling on his back. The next day, the third day. Naruto, wake up! Said a voice as Naruto's eyes opened. Kakashi was above him. Naruto sighed as Kakashi continued, why were you sleeping on the ground? The whole night flashed in front of Naruto as he shot up. He gasped as he looked all around him, and everything was fine. Not one building was burnt, or even scratched. He then looked where Kiba had been, and no one was there. What the hell? Master Kakashi! Last night there was a fire, and Kiba, and we fought. Kakashi smiled. What fire? And Kiba is probably at his home. I think that it was just one of your sleepwalking things or maybe a dream. Naruto gave him an angered look. When did I sleepwalk? And I hardly ever dream anyways. He shouted. Kakashi laughed as he walked away. Well, I just know that nothing happened here last night. He smiled at Naruto as he turned forward. And then a thought popped into his head, Kakashi thinking, but that man, reports of 3 murders last night. Maybe Naruto isn't lying, maybe that Kiba child has something to do with this. Kakashi walked in the direction of Kiba's house. Well, what do you want to do today, Sasuke? Said Sakura with a cheery mood. Sasuke gave her a half smile as he stopped at a shop. What are you doing? I need to buy some food, I'm running low. And I need breakfast. He picked out some food as the owner smiled at him. What are you looking at? You are Yukika Sasuke, correct? Said the woman. She put her arms together in a clap as Sasuke stared at her. Is something wrong? Where is the woman who usually is at this tent? The woman smiled again, as if today was the best day of her life. Usually here? This is my shop. I come here every day. Where is she? The woman turned her back to them, and then started talking again. Fine, Yukika. She sighed as she turned back around. I am going to kill you now. Her last sentence was with a masculine voice. Arms flew out and an explosion was created, engulfing the whole marketplace, Sasuke and Sakura flying back. The explosion was so huge and loud that there was not one person in the leaf that did not hear it. The smoke flew around, as if they were in a sandstorm. Only smoke was the sand. Sasuke stood up, looking the same way that Naruto had when he was drowned by flames. Pieces of his shirt ripped, his face black with soot and ash, and his eyes Sharingan. He looked at Sakura, or from what he could see of her through the smoke, she was in the same shape he was, but she was unconscious. A punch landed on Sasuke's stomach, sending him back until he hit a wall. He looked behind him. It was gray and dark, almost black. With the smoke nowhere to go, it was going to cloud his vision. Nothing was going through the wall. You know, said a voice, loud and commanding. In this little box, there is nowhere you can go. It's like you're a trapped rat. Sasuke remembered the last time someone had said that to him. He wanted this to happen the same way that it had. I'll let the smoke out in due time, but first, I have to land the primary blows. A force threw Sasuke forward, pushing pain throughout his body. Another blow sent him upward, hitting the wall. Sasuke tried to grab onto something, and amazingly his hand went through, but just as it did, he tried to put it back in. The wall would not allow it. His own hand stuck him in the air, the wall holding its ground. Well, since I can no longer hear you, I may as well let this damn smoke out. The smoke started to see through the wall, letting Sasuke get a deep breath of air. As soon as he did, a force once again hit his chest, letting the air back out. He looked down and saw nothing had hit his chest, just a force of something. It took a minute or so, but as soon as the smoke all cleared out, Sasuke started to feel a lot of pain in his arm. His muscles were starting to feel the effects, and his arm felt like it was going to snap. He kept looking around, but the only person he could see was Sakura. Whoever had been talking was nowhere to be seen. Hey! Up here! Sasuke's head flew up. The woman was standing on the wall, looking down at him. When you can't let go, know that you have to hold on for a damned good reason. And for a future question of yours, einzigartig means unique in German. Kurenai, Asuma, Guy and Kakashi landed on a building near the boxed-in wall. Who is that woman? Said Asuma as he assessed the situation, staring at everything in front of him. Sasuke hung from the box, the woman looking down at him. I'm sure all of the Leaf Ninja are coming here, since the explosion. Don't worry, they can't hit me, just our little secret, okay? Said the woman. Kakashi noticed her as the enemy. He took out a kunai, looking at it for a small second and then throwing it at the woman. She started to laugh as the kunai struck her back. At that moment, an amazing thing happened. The kunai went through her. A cloud erupted, making it a shadow clone, but then another one of the clones appeared in the same spot. What the hell, thought Kakashi. Sasuke stared up at her, till the pain hit him again, and he gasped as he heard a crack. Shh, she said, looking back down at Sasuke. She was wearing a hooded shirt, black with yellow stripes on the side. It was then when she pulled out her headband, to show her nationality. The headband, strange enough, had nothing on it. You see, Yukika, I'm of my own nation. It has no ninja. It has no jutsu that are of its own. It has nothing. That is my ideal country. It's called the einzigartig country. Her eyes started to glow. How can you create your own country? Said Sasuke. Kurenai, Asuma, Guy and Kakashi all jumped from the building, joined by more jounin as well. They landed on the box and then suddenly went through, falling about 50 feet to the bottom. Well, to answer your question, Yukika, how can you create your own business, religion, fighting style, or invention? No one will ever acknowledge it until it is strong or popular. That's why I'm willing to have you join my country, if you are willing to let go of this pathetic one. A ninja landed behind her, and the man instantly flew back into a building. You see, my power is that I can use my chakra to control anything. I'm kind of like those myths and tall tales you read of when you're in grade school. But I'm real. I can do anything I want as long as I have the chakra. And don't worry, unless I do an absolute toll on my body, my chakra won't even have a dent in it. Sasuke looked up at her, still, as Kakashi and the rest tried to find a way out of the tunnel. He looked down as one of the ninja was helping Sakura. He sighed in relief as he tried to free his hand once more. The woman looked back down at him, bored. She sat down next to him, and then plopped back on the box. Why are you so carefree? Heh, what are you doing? You can't free yourself. Only I can give permission for the box to do something. Even if it wants, it's in a contract with me. I feed it chakra. It does exactly what I say. Kind of like a slave, you know. I've always wanted one. Do anything for you. Sasuke groaned. Do you want to go down? Yes. Too bad. Oh, I almost forgot. She shot back up. She looked like a woman in her 20s, which added to the strangeness. How could she have learned such a technique so young? So what do you say about the country? I have more headbands. Never. Sasuke's eyes almost had a fiery sensation to them. Down below, on the streets, the waiter, Shinichi, smiled. He now wore a Jounin uniform, along with the Einzigardig headband. Going perfectly as planned, Naruto ran as fast as he could. He was running with some other ninja, going to the disaster area. As soon as they got there they spotted Shinichi. Who are you? Shouted one of the ninja. I am Shinichi Irichi. I'm from a neighboring country, a new one actually, he said. Naruto noticed his face, trying to put it on a person. Hey, said Naruto pointing at him. Aren't you that waiter guy across from the ramen bar? I remember you, you were an asshole. If you are from a different country, why were you working here? The man stared into his eyes, not angered, but looking as if his temper was almost gone. Paying off a debt, he said, reaching for his pocket and pulling out a kunai. For myself to bring this country down. He threw it to the ground, an explosion tag on it. The ninja all dispersed, each going a separate way. The tag exploded, doing its job, and Naruto was sent to the wall of a building. It was here where he noticed the boxed wall, and saw the ninja inside and one on the top. What does your country have against ours? Said the same ninja who talked first. My country has everything to do against this. Place. He said in disgust. The leaf, the mighty leaf, blah blah blah. That's all I ever hear. Every country is dwarfed in comparison to this one. Even that Orochimaru's attack did nothing to stop you. Am I here to do his work? A kunai flew past him, and he threw his hands up, sending it into flames. That scene flew to Naruto, and he remembered his and Kiba's fight. Kiba could do that. Shinichi, or whatever your name is, said Naruto as he worked himself up. The thought of asking him the question quickly eroded as he thought of something new to say, as to not appear as an idiot. I'm gonna kick your ass? Much better, thought Naruto, worrying. Kakashi felt the sides of the wall. He could not go through it or above it. He tried once more as he sent a kunai to the top of the box, only to watch it fall to his feet after colliding with the wall. Sakura, are you awake? He said with a low voice. How did you and Sasuke get in this position? Sakura rubbed her eyes and brushed her clothes. I don't know. Me and Sasuke were getting food from the marketplace. Then he stopped at a tent to buy something, and the lady there asked him if he were Yukika Sasuke. Sasuke asked her where the normal shopkeeper was, and then something happened, and here I am, I guess. She looked up at Sasuke, walking directly under him. The sound of a drip occurred and she looked around, then looked back up. 5 blood drips fell on her forehead and hair. Sakura then screamed. Sasuke winced as the woman took her hand off the kunai embedded in his hand. Are you going to join me or not, Uchiha? She laughed as another thought appeared in her head before Sasuke could answer. I forgot to tell you my name, it's Aya. Nice to meet you again, Aya, huh? Well, I'm still not going with you, said Sasuke, half spitting at her. Aya looked at him, and then laughed again, rolling on the box. You are really annoying. She appeared in front of him again. More pain shot through his body as he winced. You aren't in the position to insult little kids. Her eyes glowed as her sentence ended. She then sighed, "I've had enough of you. I'll kill you now." "Yeah, that sounds good." Sasuke felt the pain in his arm as Aya laughed at him again. It had been about half an hour since Aya shouted her death threat. "Why haven't you killed me yet?" said Sasuke. "Because I was just using it to have you join me. Apparently it didn't work and the Einzigartig is still without you." You know, she stopped, freezing in motion as if a bullet had hit her. She turned around, looking down to where Naruto and Shinichi were battling. Yukika. You must decide now. Why? What's with the rush? You were all slow and patient before. Because he's here now, and we must leave. Shinichi had more fun with his projects this time than he should have. Come on. Yes or no? You die or you join. Sasuke spat at her. Fine. You die. Sasuke dropped from the box, sending his broken hand free. The ninja below noticed this and quickly acted. Before Sasuke hit the ground, he was caught and placed onto the ground gently, as all the ninjas surrounded him. Kiba walked slowly onto the scene of the ninja against Shinichi's scene, his hood hiding his face as he stopped. Everyone stopped, looking at him. Naruto shouted his name. Kiba then pulled his head up, allowing the sun to hit his face. He pulled his hand up slowly as it pushed away his black hood, the Einzigartig symbol on his forehead where the leaf symbol should be. Charge him! Shouted one of the ninja as Kiba's face started to show the horror he felt. Naruto woke up, sweat poured down his face as he moved his hand through his hair. His eyes were half open, and it had only been 2 years since the last scene, but he had not aged well. Bags and wrinkles under his eyes seemed to go on forever, and his hair was a wild mess, even more so than before. He stood up, yawning, thinking hard about what he had just dreamed. A whole year in one sleep. His dreams were getting worse and worse. Soon he'd be reliving the 3 years in one night. He knew the only way to get past the dreams, but he was so scared to do it that he kept putting it off. Naruto started into the hall, stopping midway through it, looking to his right. A picture of Hinata stood staring at him. His eyes were fixed on it, and he couldn't move them. They started to bulge. He walked into the kitchen, picking up a steaming cup of coffee. A woman that looked around his age sat down with him, sipping at her own cup. You look like you didn't have much sleep last night, she said, her voice grim and stern. Oh, I slept. It's just what I was dreaming of, said Naruto as he stared into his reflection in the endless black. It again? I'm telling you, you must. Naruto hit the coffee as he stood up. It spilled over the counter as he left the room. The woman followed him out, but he was gone. Naruto. A long silence. I'm sorry. She walked back into the house and started down the hall. She started to open a door when something caught her eye. Her mouth opened. Hinata's picture was facing the wall. It had been flipped over. Naruto, said Shino as he looked up from his carving. It was a rough engraving, and whatever it was modeled after was not apparent yet. The wood was chipped, and some still rested on the carving. Overlooking them was the monument to the former Hokages. Shino. You took up craftsmanship? Said Naruto. He was now wearing a black jacket and black pants. Looked as if he'd just been to a funeral. It was now noon and the sun shone at its best, as it knew it was about going to die at the end of the day. I don't know. I have to take up a hobby since we can't be ninja anymore, you know. Naruto didn't answer. He put his hands in his pockets, moved them around till he felt that they were comfortable enough, and sighed. What is it? Said Naruto, trying to change the subject. Shino looked down at it, and moved the knife from the wood. The mountain. Naruto looked down at his shoes. How's he know? Good. The whole scene started to play through his mind, so fast he couldn't tell what it was. Naruto collapsed. The box, the ninja, Kiba, Shinichi, Aya, all of them were where they were standing. Naruto! Are you okay? He lifted him up slowly as Naruto panted. This is where it went down, all of it, that day. The Einzigardig, Aya, Sasuke, all of them were here. He started to move his hand across the roof, moving over the tiles as the people below, looking up at the ceiling, listened to him. The day passed slowly after that as Naruto went through his normal routine, till he went home. He went straight to bed, remembering what had happened in the morning. This starts off where the last dream ended. Kiba threw his hands to his head, screaming. 2 balls of chakra, powerful enough to be seen, floated in front of him. They turned into flat ovals and had spikes going out of them. As they charged the ninja, one had nothing in his knowledge to do besides block, and the chakra went straight through him. Blood flew everywhere as the man's upper section fell to the ground. The other flew at the same rate as the first, and it went to another ninja. He took out a kunai and threw it to the chakra. It went perfectly into the oval, and went through as if the chakra was water. It flew into the ninja and it had the same results as the first oval. Sasuke slowly woke up. Blood was all around him. Some was on himself. He stood up slowly, moaning. Sakura ran up to him. Mist was all around them. She was crying. Sasuke! She cried. Sakura! What's going on? Said Sasuke quickly. Sakura threw herself into his chest, forcing him to put his hands around her and to regain his balance. She kept on crying. Kiba! He's out of control. Sensei put up the misjutsu that Zabuza had used against us to cloak our ninja, but we still cannot defeat him. Or find him. He could be close right now. Sasuke used one hand to reach into his pocket near his knees to get a kunai. Sakura, sure. She quieted down a little, but her sobs were still barely heard. Sasuke removed his right arm from her, and moved his left arm to her upper right arm. Now, he shoved her out of the way. Kiba's ovals flew from the mist. Sasuke quickly ducked to the ground. The ovals went over him as Sasuke quickly got back up, sprinting with a special boost from the ground as he got up. He threw his fist at Kiba, who was smiling as Sasuke drew closer. The two ovals flew in front of Sasuke's fist, turning into a solid almost bustling with chakra. A crack was heard as Sasuke's uninjured hand broke. Aya laughed as she walked to Sasuke. Uchiha! You really should have listened to me. See Kiba here, he's ein Izugardic. Shut up! Shouted Kiba. You are not in this. Leave. Aya's face grew angry as she could not gloat any longer, but she followed his order. Her body flew into the mist. Not to confuse anyone, but while Naruto and Shino are talking in the following, please note that anything that isn't in quotes or saying he said or she said is in the flashback. Tell me, Naruto, as your counselor on all this, said Shino, they were at the same place they talked last time. How did you exactly defeat Aya? Naruto walked around in the mist, holding his injured arm. He ran into a wall, cursing it. He kept walking, now down the side of the wall. A voice was heard as he flipped around, Aya standing behind him. A fist flew into his stomach as he flew down the wall. He landed, his limbs bouncing off the ground as his limp body finally halted. He slowly stood, wondering why this person was attacking him. Naruto quickly took out a kunai. As he felt her getting closer and closer, he then threw his kunai up to block her attack. Nothing happened. It was then that her plan hit him. He flew around, Aya behind him. She laughed as she threw her hand out. Naruto flying down the way he had come. Some more voices were heard as blood erupted from Naruto's mouth. He coughed. The voices started to argue. One of the voices was Shinichi's. Naruto said, well, if Shinichi hadn't joined our side, I do not think that I would have been able to defeat her. Well, they had a disagreement. He wanted to leave the leaf as quickly as he could and regroup. It turns out that there were more Izugardic, some attacking the sand. Well, since Shinichi wanted to quit, leaving Kiba there to die, Aya said no, and the two started to fight. Oh. I'm sorry I was not there to see this all. This is the first time I have heard of the real story actually. Most ninja who were there aren't alive today. Naruto slowly stood up, using the wall as leverage. He didn't know where it had come from, as he didn't remember a wall being this long. He started to walk towards where he heard the shouts, and he slowly stumbled upon the fight. Aya shoved Shinichi, who shoved back. Aya then threw a fist. Shinichi ducked, trying to punch her. Aya jumped back, taking out a kunai, and screamed as she attacked Shinichi, who was unarmed. But why didn't she attack him with her power? Said Shino. Well, as I later figured out, Aya's power consisted mostly of her mind. When she faced a team member or someone she loved, she could not use it. I don't know how to explain it, but she did not use chakra for her power. It was a 1 in a trillion kind of technique. So when she attacked Shinichi with just regular weapons, she was quickly subdued. But when she finally forced herself to use her power against him, I stepped in. Naruto ran up to her, his kunai out, limping. She laughed at him but quickly got back in fighting position as Shinichi attacked her again. It was as if he was diving at her, his head forward, his whole body in a horizontal position, kind of like he was flying. Shinichi performed a flip, then threw the dagger down to Aya. It instantly stopped 3 inches from her nose, stopped by her jutsu. Naruto then acted as she started an attack. He dove forward, throwing the kunai into Aya's back. He flew past her and hit the dirt. Aya stumbled forward a bit as Shinichi threw his own kunai into her stomach. She collapsed onto his shoulder as he held her up. "Wow, that's the story?" said Shino. "No, not all of it. But that's how I met Aya though. And that's how I live with her. Almost immediately after that the Hokage showed up. I don't know what Shinichi did to Aya, but she is actually a normal 17-year-old woman. She was a normal 15-year-old woman then, but it was kind of like what Orochimaru did. He hypnotized her or something. You know what, that's all I feel like talking about today." The next day, Naruto woke up, slowly moving past Hinata's picture, sitting down at the table. The woman sat down with him, giving him his coffee. It was almost an everyday routine. "Aya, sorry about yesterday. I've started to tell Shino the story. We've already got a year through." Aya sighed. She looked into her coffee and then smiled. "It's alright. I don't know what you are going through, but I'm sure it is hard for you. Are you ever going to visit you know again? I don't know if I can forgive her." He looked up at Aya, after previously staring deep into his coffee. "Let's talk about something else. How was your day?" Naruto walked to the ramen bar, stopping to admire the glowing through the dark. The blue in the dark skies still held its ground as night came closer. He sat down, sighing as the waiter put a bowl in front of him. The steam floated to his face. Naruto just stared into the bowl, depressed. Hinata looked to her left. It was just as she feared. Naruto stood not 10 feet from her, buying ramen from the ramen bar. He spotted her. "Naruto," she said loud enough for him to hear. It was the first time in a long time that Naruto had seen her, and his first glimpse was amazing in his eyes. Her hair was shorter now, and she had matured fully. She still wore her old coat, although it was a little too small for her body. Naruto's mouth half opened, his eyes wide, and he was forced to speak. "Hinata." She smiled. This was the first time they had met in 2 years. The Leaf was a giant city, but Naruto had tried to avoid her. He walked up to her, slowly at first, but then with growing speed. Hinata was across the street, holding a pair of shopping bags. She smiled as Naruto ran up to her. He threw his arms open, as did she, and the two hugged. Hinata's bags dropped to the ground, letting a small echo of dust go around them. "Naruto!" laughed Kakashi, throwing the two's love scene off balance. Naruto dropped the hug. Looking to his right, Kakashi was smiling at them. Behind him was his new team. Naruto smiled back at the team, and Kakashi walked up to them. "So I see you two are together again." "No. We aren't," said Naruto. The joy in Hinata's face fell, but she still tried to seem happy. "So, Sensei," Kakashi interrupted him. "You do not need to call me Sensei anymore, Naruto. You've moved on to the Chunin level now. Soon you will be commanding your own group of ninja, so you do not need to call me Sensei. It is an immense honor, but please." "Okay, Kakashi." Kakashi smiled as Naruto did, as it felt awkward to call him that. "Well, it looks like you two were up to something, so we'll be going. Alright, team." They ran past Naruto and Hinata. "Look at that," he said, smiling at Hinata. "Naruto, why did you say we weren't together?" said Hinata slowly, her face starting to become red. "Well, we aren't. Are we? Do you want to be?" That was the question that Hinata wanted to hear so much, but at the same time it was a knife through her throat. I don't know. Naruto stepped closer to her. She stared at the ground, and Naruto lifted his hand up to her face and then smiled. Hinata started to shake. It was as if this was their first meeting. Naruto, too, was scared senseless, but he needed to keep his composure. Hinata's head started to move upwards, and it wasn't until Naruto saw her face that he realized what she was doing. Hinata was not scared, she was crying. crying tears of happiness. It's been so long. Why Naruto? Flashback. Tsunachi dropped Aya in disgust. He looked at Naruto and laughed. Did you think I was on your side or something? I am on nobody's side. Only half a split second occurred before a fist was in Naruto's stomach. The power was immense, but Naruto did not move. He screamed. The scream was dry and it burned Naruto's throat. He grabbed Tsunachi's hand, blood falling from his mouth. He could feel his organs hurting, the internal bleeding just beginning to set in. Everything started to get very hot, even though just a minute ago he was freezing from the mist. Naruto threw Tsunachi's hand out of the way, throwing Tsunachi off balance. Naruto jumped forwards, but the pain held its ground and Naruto automatically went into a fetal position in mid-air. His body fell limp against the frostbitten ground. Naruto looked at Hinata, the warmth of the situation coming to him. I don't know, I was being stupid. A stupid kid. Is everything alright now? Are we alright? Naruto. Naruto was staring into space. He was thinking hard. My ramen! He ran to the bar, eating some ramen. No! It's cold. He started crying. Shino and Ino walked past Hinata, their hands locked. Ino stopped and looked at Naruto, worryingly. What's wrong with him? Hinata looked over to her, her eyes half closed. His ramen is cold. Ino's face turned to disgust and surprise. She whispered to Shino, just keep walking. Hinata looked over to Shino but Ino moved her face in the way of his and just smiled at her. Bye-bye. Shino and Naruto stood on the same building. Shino's carving was almost complete. 2 out of the 4 monuments were done so far. So, you're seeming very happy lately, said Shino as he studied his work. Yeah, well, we are almost done with that day. Do you mind if we finish it today? Naruto put his hands in his jacket. It was a cold day. His breath showed as he sighed. Not today. But tomorrow I think I will. Just today. Something's wrong with it. I don't remember what it is. 2 years ago that day happened. You knew that. Maybe so. Shino sighed as he looked up from his carving. Naruto, if you aren't going to be completely honest all the time, then why are we doing these sessions? Naruto looked down at the roof and smiled as he said his answer confidently. Because these sessions are a way to get rid of the past. Just a way. I never said how we would do it, or when, or how long it was going to take. When are you getting your team? April. Me too. Naruto. Why did you break up with Hinata in the first place? Said Shino. Their session, this time, was in Shino's home. The environment was very warm and friendly. The room was well lit. Pictures were everywhere, and plants covered much of the space left in the room. Naruto, who sat in a brown, leather chair, put his hands together, interlinking his fingers. He thought hard about what he was about to say, and about a minute later he finally said it. Because, she, kind of, betrayed me. You see, during that day, after Tsunachi defeated Aya, he retreated. I couldn't follow him, but soon the Hokage showed up. You mean the former Hokage? Yeah, well. She and her team of Anbu could not see through the mist, so she did a ninjutsu that took it away. Of course this was great because the ninja could all see and not have to fight blind, but this also allowed Kiba to see them as well. It was a slaughter. No one could escape the ovals that flew around him. Even the Hokage fell to its fury. I had no idea what to do, and as soon as the ovals came for Hinata, he was cut off. I don't remember you saying she arrived on the scene. Oh. Well, she did during the hour when the mist was in effect. Well, when the ovals came for her, I pretty much saved her life by shoving her out of the way, saving her and myself, and then they came back for me. I thought that, if you loved someone enough that you would risk your life for them, and well, she didn't. I was lucky enough that Kakashi had finally attacked Kiba while the ovals were far enough away from him. I see. What happened to Sasuke when Kiba attacked him during the mist? Him and Kiba fought, and right before Kiba was going to kill him, the Hokage showed up. She cleared the mist, and all the ninjas surrounded Kiba. I too surrounded him. Kiba then let loose the ovals. First he got the Hokage after most of the Anbu stepped in front of her. The ovals cut right through them. After that, it was a mess. No one knew what to do, or how to attack such a monster, until Kakashi, who stayed quiet the whole time, finally got him. Got him? Kiba is dead? Died? Yes. Shino, where were you during that day anyways? Of course you know he was in my group, he knocked me out. I don't know what happened but I didn't get up for 3 days. I had 3 broken ribs. No one ever told me the story of that day. Want to keep going? No. Naruto stood up and walked out of the house. He stopped at his steps, sighing. Naruto, said Sakura as the two sat at the ramen bar. Why haven't you talked to Hinata lately? It's been 2 days since you two have been together. It's like you don't even want her. What's wrong? Naruto sighed as he looked at her. Listen, I just realized why I left her in the first place. I'm not sure if I should continue or stop where I am at, he said. You know what it feels like to have your heart broken, Sakura. You should know. I do, but that doesn't mean that I am going to hate Sasuke forever for what he did. He did it because he had to. Joining another country is not something he had to do. He hit his ramen. It flew off the table into the cooking area. He started to walk away when Sakura stopped him. It is damn well something he had to do with Naruto. Raindrops started to fall. First very lightly, but it was slowly and steadily increasing in power. You have no idea what happened after that day. I was there, Sakura. I was there the first day, then the next day. I saw everything that happened. Every little detail I know. So don't think that I don't know what happened, cause I do. Anger was on top of their voices so much it was hard to hear what they were saying. I don't care about Naruto, she said, her voice a little lower this time. I don't care. He is mine and I love him. Just because he is not here doesn't mean that I have lost him. Sakura started to cry, though the rain covered her tears. Flashback. Day after Kiba was killed, Sasuke stood, thinking about what he had seen the day before. He put it into his head and kept thinking of what Kiba did and could have done. If he was not so obsessive with his powers, he would have taken over this village. If he would have been smart about what he did, Sasuke wanted that power. He wanted the ability to do that much damage if he wanted it. He needed to find the Einzigardig secret. Whatever it was, it was powerful enough to destroy a major portion of the Leaf Village. He then, without any warning, without taking any supplies, left the Leaf Village to seek out the Einzigardig. Rendering what happened to Orochimaru was useless, Sakura sat thinking. Her surroundings were very bleak and dark. Rain dripped inside the room. She sat in a chair, her feet curled up to the chair, holding a coffee cup, watching the steam rise to become invisible. She sighed, thinking about Sasuke. Her feet hit the floor, causing a small blast of waves around her. She opened the door to the raining street. A sigh as she closed the door, she then threw her back to it, sliding slowly into the cold waters. She started to cry. The door slowly opened, waves following the action. Naruto stood at the doorway, his hair down from the water, an angered look on his face. He looked at Sakura. She didn't even notice him. He spoke slowly. Sakura. Nothing. He waited patiently for a response but never got one. Sakura, he yelled. Naruto. What? She didn't look over to him. He looked up and sighed. Rain hit his forehead, as he was not inside completely. I'll help you get Sasuke. His overcoat was drenched, the many laces falling down as far as they could hang. His hands lay snug inside their appropriate pouches, as Sakura slowly moved her view, trying to see him. He looked back down, giving Sakura a glance. She slowly stood, water falling from her body. Footstep by footstep, she slowly walked to Naruto, keeping her eyes locked on him. It started to freak Naruto out, as he had never seen her like that. She got within arm's length of him and collapsed onto him. Naruto couldn't decipher it from a hug or if she had really collapsed. He held her up best he could, and slowly walked out of the house, still holding her. Sakura, are you there? Yes. How long has it been since you ate? You're light. Naruto looked into her eyes, they were white. I'm going to get you to a hospital. He lifted her up, carrying her down the raining streets. Naruto sat on a bench in the empty hospital. The halls were an indescribable green. All he knew about them is that it made him want to puke. He held himself up with his elbows on his thighs, thinking hard. How am I going to do this? He said, Kakashi sat down beside Naruto, a small wooden door beside the two. Naruto had no idea where he had come from and what he was doing here. But he could do nothing but say hi. I heard from the doctors. No need to explain. She's been like that for a while. I don't know what to do. What did you say you were going to do? Kakashi leaned back, looking at Naruto. Get Sasuke for her. Kakashi smiled when he heard it. What? You were lucky to get him the last time for her. Now, this time it is almost impossible. Plus, you can't do it anyways. It's the Hunternin's job, not yours. And anyways, soon you'll have your own team to be in command of. You have no room for rescues. But Kakashi interrupted. And anyways, last time you knew where Sasuke was and where he was going. Did you this time? No. We have no idea why he left, and where he went. He is just a missing nin. There are plenty of them around the world. Plus, we have people looking for him now. Yeah, but they've never found any sign of him. Naruto, this is an order from your former sensei. Do not look for Sasuke. If you do, you'll be considered a missing nin yourself and will probably be killed by a hunter nin. Naruto stopped talking, and then looked at the small door. I know, Naruto, but there is nothing you can do. You should have thought before you promised. You have to teach the academy as well, so I'd do that first. Then your team. Wait. They never told me I was going to be an academy instructor. When did this happen? Well, you can't become a jounin straight up, sure you are now. But they want you to teach a couple classes first. All you have to do is teach them the basic skills and tell them about chakra, that stuff. You remember, right? Naruto gave him a blank look. Kakashi smiled and then said, Don't worry, you'll do fine. You start tomorrow. The next day, Naruto sat in his seat in front of a whole auditorium of empty seats. He looked at his watch. Sweat started to pour from his already sweat-soaked head. It was 7:30. The first couple of students started to file in, and after 10 minutes every seat was filled. Hey! It's Naruto! Said Konohamaru. Naruto gave him a strange look. Konohamaru was in the seat highest from the top. Konohamaru? You've been here for like 6 minutes, shouldn't you have noticed who the teacher was by now? Moegi raised her hand. Yes? Teacher, sorry, but his brain doesn't start till 7:40. How did he get here? We dragged him. Okay. I'll remember that. Now in class, I'm your new teacher. I'll be teaching you the basics of. He backed up to his desk and looked at his plan as quickly as he could. Chakra today. Sakura sat in her hospital bed, her hands stringing through her hair as she stared at her bed sheets. The room was dark and damp, and only a single window allowed light. It was more a prison than a hospital room. Naruto sat at his desk, clicking his pen onto a piece of paper, watching it go through, time after time, going deeper into the papers below. As the ink started to create a deep, dark, blue pool, he started to think about Sasuke, where he was and what he was doing, and why he had left. All those questions circling through his head. Why, he said aloud. Sasuke, sitting in a desk of his own, sat doing exactly the same thing that Naruto was doing. He thought it had been almost 2 years since he'd seen the people of the Leaf of Konoha. Since then, he had relocated to the country of the sand, traveling for a whole year, without finding the Einzigartig. His whole life had been wasted, in his opinion, and had no choice but to settle down. If he returned to a major village or the Leaf, he'd be killed. For now he was in a small village, a village too small even to have ninja. He was the village leader, as the village had only 300 people in its borders, and they never seen a ninja of his stature. Since then he had mobilized the small village, creating a police force, a ninja academy, and so far had started what he was hoping to lead to Konoha. A whole village followed him, 300 followers. He stood up, sighing, looking out his window. He was inside his own palace, his home, where he lived like a king. Sasuke walked through the house, all the way down the stairs, through 7 doors, down some more stairs, to the door. He threw them open. Walking to the outside, green meadows greeted him, and the small village of Sachi stood in the distance. He walked to the academy, where he met with a ninja who was a teacher at the school. Mr. Tao, said Sasuke to the man in front of him. The man was a normal villager, only with a chunin vest on. I need you to take this letter to the Leaf. You know where that is? The man shook his head yes. Once you get there, go to Konoha and find this address. Yes, sir, but that is a long trip. Are you sure you want me to make it? How long will it take, Mr. Tao? Probably half a month. I'll see you then, Mr. Taguchi. Time passed slowly. Sakura came out of the hospital, charged with an eating disorder. Naruto was given his own team and gave up hopes on finding Sasuke. That was until Mr. Tao got to the leaf. 3 weeks later, Naruto opened the door to see a painting man in front of him. Who are you? He sighed and wiped his eyes. Who is it? Said Aya behind him as she opened a cabinet door. I dunno, some jackhole. This is from Mr. Taguchi. He wanted me to deliver it to you, he said through a series of pants. He gave Naruto an envelope. Aya walked up, behind Naruto, looking at the letter. You gonna open it? She said. Yeah. Naruto snapped at her. He quickly slid his finger through the top of the letter, slicing the folding part of the letter. He then took the letter out of it and started to read. As he scrolled through the page, he started to get more serious about what he was reading, thinking while reading instead of taking the letter as a burden. Sasuke. Who's Sasuke? Said Mr. Tao, and for the first time Naruto noticed his uniform. I get it. Said Naruto. Mister, please come in. Naruto walked to his coffee table, reached to a cabinet, and got paper and a pen. He started to write. He stopped halfway through his letter, dropping his pen and opening his mouth, finally reaching the point of Sasuke's letter. He stood up, getting his coat, running outside. Mr. Tao. Show me where you live. Mr. Tao ran outside, following Naruto. Aya had no choice but to follow them. Naruto ran to the town gates. But as he reached there, he passed by the ramen bar. Hinata sat on one of the stools, circling around, waiting for Naruto to come. She spotted them and ran to Naruto. Naruto! She shouted. Naruto stopped, looking around. Hinata? What? We need to talk. Now. Yes. The line behind him gave him a weird look, and he reluctantly walked to the ramen bar with Hinata. They sat down and he sighed. What is it? Why haven't you been talking to me lately? For the last month I haven't talked to you. I haven't seen you. And it hurts. Naruto gave her a surprised look. When did you become so open? He put his hands on her shoulders. Aya watched, studying the two. She had hardly been out since she started to live with Naruto. A house guest that never left. This was one of her first times out since then. Since you stopped talking to me. I felt that if I were more open then maybe. You'd notice me more. We are dating, aren't we? She started to cry. Listen, I want you to come with me. Where are you going? I'm going to find Sasuke. But I won't be gone if you don't come with me. Okay. Naruto, I wanted to make this letter short, mostly because I wanted to reach you as soon as possible. There is much I want to tell you, though if this letter is ever picked up by a leaf then I'll surely be killed if I told you what I wanted to tell you. Though there are some I can tell you that will not get me killed. I did leave, yes, and I am at the following address, 305 Taguchi Street. Please go there as soon as you can. Sasuke sat staring deep into his desk, following the lines across the smooth wood. He sighed as he stood, staring out the window. He shook his head as he collapsed back into the chair. Naruto! Where are you going? Said Hinata as they reached the forest. They were all in a fast-paced run. They knew that soon the leaf would know they were gone, and they would search for them. I don't know right now. Hinata, just run. After we get out of the clear, we should be alright for a while. Mr. Tao should take us to the right place. Mr. Tao looked back at Naruto, and then started to speak. Mr. Naruto. The last I checked, it was not soon past 6, and that means that we have almost 30 minutes until nightfall. After nightfall we should reach a village by the name of Ida. There we should be able to either dodge or completely miss the hunter needs you speak of. From there we can make it to my village. Alright. How's everyone doing? Shouted Naruto to Aya and Hinata. Alright, said Hinata, then Aya soon after. Thoughts passed through Aya's head. She had nothing to do but to run, and her mind was resting. No task, no update, nothing. Flashes, images, memories started to fly through her head. Soon she was reliving her fight with Shinichi, a fist into her stomach, the pain of a kunai into her back. She tripped. A slow, as if time stopped, session happened, and her fast hit the ground. Her body flew into the ground as her body went limp, and as if a rag doll it slowly stopped in a puddle of blood and dirt. Naruto stopped almost instantly, falling himself, his right pant leg ripping. Hinata and Mr. Tao slowly slowed down, and then ran back to the scene, as Naruto rushed there as quickly as he could. He rushed up to Aya and flipped her over, looking around the forest as sweat poured down his head, passing his right eye. Cuts, blood, and dirt surrounded Aya's face, and her clothing, what was left of it. Blood slowly fell from her lip as Naruto lifted her up, ran up to him, shouting, no. Put her back down. Naruto followed his order as he put her down as gently as he could. Hinata stood, a couple feet away from the scene, thinking, oh, why am I here? I shouldn't be here. No. But Naruto, Hinata, just hold on, everything will be alright. Naruto looked at Mr. Tao as he stammered to him, Mr. Tao. What can we do? We have to get out of here quick. We really didn't need this. I don't know, nothing I can do besides clean up the wounds, patch them up, but nothing else besides that. And that would take a while itself, so the only manageable thing we can do is pick her up and see if we can reach the village before midnight. Naruto sighed, he looked back at Hinata and then stood up. Time stood still as he looked around, thinking. He sighed once more as he came to his decision. Mr. Tao, would you mind carrying Aya to the village without me? I will draw them off while you get away. Hinata, go with them. Not at all, said Mr. Tao. Hinata, please go with them. No, she said, cutting off Naruto. I'm going with you. Naruto coughed as he walked to her, sighing. Hinata, please. We don't have time for this. Please, they are only after me right now. I am the primary target to those needs, not you all. Hell, Mr. Tao isn't even one of the ones they're after. If you stay with him and blend in while I find the village where you three will be at, Aya will be better in no time, and we can move on to Sasuke. Hinata didn't answer. I'm going, Mr. Tao, please hurry. Naruto, I am going with you. Her eyes were serious, and for the first time, Naruto saw the person inside her, a strong, confident woman. He had no choice but to allow her. Mr. Tao, expect us in 3 days at the most. If we aren't there by then, leave without us. Your life is more important than mine. Just tell me, on this path, where would I find the village? If you went the way we're going, there should be a fork in the road, go right, and then you should be there in a matter of minutes. Mr. Tao ran off, carrying Aya on his back. Naruto turned around reaching for his kunai. Aya, are you ready for this? Wait, what are we doing? She said. The Umbu, pretty much the first squad to be sent out after a missing nin is reported, sends out a team of 4 first. They are the first team out here, and they search for 3 days before they go back. Now you see this team should be here soon. Maybe 5-10 minutes after what happened to Aya. Until then we have to prepare. Mr. Tao ran as quick as he could, panting, as he had another 100 pounds to factor into what he was carrying. He stopped, slowly putting Aya down, as he was at the fork in the road. Sweat poured from his head as he read the sign, and then picked Aya up again. Gasping as he started to run again. Time flew by as he started to see the lights of Ida, glowing over the mountains. Mr. Naruto, he thought as he ran towards the town. Mr. Taguchi, I won't let you down. Newfound strength, as he started to catch a faster pace towards Ida. Naruto and Hinata sat in the same place they were before nightfall, near a fire. Naruto dropped some logs into the fire, creating an amazing display of fire particles and ash. He sat down next to Hinata and sighed. Well, this is nice, isn't it? A smile came from Naruto. Hinata smiled as well, as Naruto put his arm around her. The two looked at each other, and Naruto stared into her eyes. The fire reflected from her eyes, and as the flames reached higher and higher each time, they fell each time as well, and Naruto watched them through her eyes, not even looking at the fire. Naruto moved his head in, slowly, and the two kissed. Hinata fell back, holding Naruto's coat, forcing him down with her, and the two continued to kiss. Mr. Tao sat in the forest. It was now nightfall, and a fire was burning. He sat, looking around, trying not to fall asleep. Aya yawned as she slowly awoke. She looked around, then noticed that neither Naruto or Hinata were there. "Where's Naruto?" she said. "It's alright, they went somewhere. I don't know where, to draw the ninja that are following us off." "Oh." She looked at her wounds, they were bandaged. "Did you?" "Yes." He looked around, then said, "How come you tripped?" "I went down that path when I was going to Konoha, and there isn't any route or thing that would cause someone to trip." Aya sighed as she stood up. "Well." She started to walk back and forth. "It's just when I have nothing to do, besides one task, I start to think, and then bad memories come back to me and I start to freak out. Luckily I only tripped." She smiled. Mr. Tao had no choice but to go along with it and smile as well. "Well, what do you want to do now? We can't sleep because we have no idea when the Umbu are coming, and our firewood is getting low." So. Aya smiled, and then said, "Let's chop some firewood." Naruto woke up, and then looked around, figuring out he had fallen asleep, and they were both inside Naruto's sleeping bag. He removed his arm from around her side, and then slowly got out of the sleeping bag to get dressed. After he was done, he sat, staring at Hinata, and thinking of the night before. He had gone into the night a pure, and came out without being one. He sighed as he looked at his surroundings, and then realized what his current situation was. "Hinata!" Hinata woke up, shocked, jumping up. "What? We have to go. Remember." The situation soon came to her as the romance of the whole situation hit her. "Get changed." Mr. Tao and Aya walked into the village, and looked around. A crowd of villagers looked at them, all at the market. "Where is the nearest village?" said Mr. Tao. The crowd continued to spread apart, until Mr. Tao could see the end, and at the end of that line, was a man in an Umbu mask. "Mr. Tao, you will have to come with me," said Umbu. Mr. Tao dropped Aya carefully. He motioned a man over to him, and then Mr. Tao said, "Please take her to a hotel, any room. Just make sure she gets out of here safe." Another Umbu stopped the man Mr. Tao had motioned over. "Sorry sir, she'll have to come with us as well." The villagers started to form a circle around the men, and Mr. Tao stood, defiant in not going with the Umbu. "I do not want any harm," said Mr. Tao. His tone was serious. "Neither do I," said Umbu in front of him. "Now come with us, or die." "I'd rather die." Mr. Tao sprung into action, jumping towards the Umbu. He then pulled out a kunai as he threw the kunai at the Umbu. The Umbu blocked it as another kunai flew from Mr. Tao, and the same effect happened. Soon the only solution to this battle, if it were to end in Mr. Tao's favor, was coming more and more clearly to Mr. Tao. The crowd scattered as the ninja battle began, the Leaf versus Sachi. "Are you sure you want to die like this, Mr. Tao? I'm sure your mentor has told you many about who I am," said one of the Umbu as the battle stopped. Mr. Tao backing away from the Umbu. "Who are you?" he said. Umbu reached for his mask, and then slowly took it off. Kakashi stood not 10 feet from Mr. Tao. Sasuke walked down a line of ninja, all practicing the same routine in succession. "Again!" he shouted. It had been almost a month since he sent out the letter. 30 minutes slowly passed. Naruto ran as fast as he could to save Mr. Tao from what he saw as an inevitable death. Sasuke waited patiently, and a bloody ninja battle raged on. Both parties stood, Kakashi and Mr. Tao, each with wounds, panting, holding their bloody kunais tight. Energy left them both as they dropped their kunais, Mr. Tao first, then Kakashi. They dropped to their knees, and Kakashi sighed. How do you know my name, my mentor, my village? Because, your mentor is a runaway ninja, a missing ninja, from my village. We have been looking for him for years," said Kakashi. "But you know where he lives, and what he does. How? Sasuke tells me everything. I know what happens at your little village. How?" Kakashi charged Mr. Tao, who quickly picked up his kunai again, finding new strength as he threw his kunai at Kakashi, who blocked it, then flipped around Mr. Tao, still holding the block, and eventually letting go as he tried at Mr. Tao's side. Mr. Tao flipped around as well and held his kunai up, chest high as a spark was created from the kunais connecting. Kakashi punched Mr. Tao in his chest as soon as he could, as Mr. Tao was disorientated from the block. Mr. Tao stumbled back as Kakashi charged again. Mr. Tao jumped to the side and threw his kunai at Kakashi. Kakashi simply smacked it away with his own kunai. You cannot beat Mr. Tao. Give up now. Before you die, Kakashi said. I'm going to die anyway, he said. Very clever. You know our system well. It is the same as my own. Naruto was reaching the mountains before the village, as it had slowly been an hour since they had left the path. Kakashi and Mr. Tao was engaged in a bloody battle, leaving all other Anbu, except for Kakashi, dead. Kakashi was quickly realizing that Mr. Tao was not going down slowly, and Kakashi was starting to believe that there was only one way to take him down. Mr. Tao sighed and then looked at Kakashi, who charged him. Mr. Tao jumped back and then threw another kunai at Kakashi, and then reached for his wrist. He threw it up as Kakashi threw another kunai. It flew through the air, and it connected with Mr. Tao's hand. It went straight through, but stopped as it went at least halfway through his hand. He screamed in pain as he fell to his knees, holding his wrist still, then clenched his teeth. Hey! Blood dripped from his hand, as he panted, and Kakashi watched. Mr. Tao smiled, and his teeth were blood-stained. He coughed as his wounds started to creep up on him. Blood fell from his mouth as he reached for the kunai, and slowly pushed it out, from the handle side. Blood followed the kunai as it fell from his hand and hit the ground. Mr. Tao held his hand over the blade as his hand dripped the blood. Fry. He whispered. The kunai's shape shifted to a sword, a perfect, well-balanced sword. He picked it up and then laughed again. Kakashi had no idea how to react to the situation. How? Said Kakashi. Why do you think I let that kunai hit me? It's a jutsu. When my blood and a kunai mix, I get a sword. It is more like a summon. He lifted the sword up and looked at its perfections. Well, this battle just got a little more interesting. Mr. Tao charged Kakashi, and then swung the sword at Kakashi. Kakashi threw his kunai up to block it, but the sword just cut straight through the kunai, then connected with Kakashi's forearm. It sliced about 2 inches through his flesh. That wasn't even at my full strength. I could have very well just killed you. He smiled. Then why didn't you? Kakashi took a kunai from his chest pocket, then buried it into Mr. Tao's chest. As Mr. Tao threw his sword up, ready to swing, the kunai made him stumble back as he regained his balance, ignoring the kunai in his chest. He stabbed Kakashi in the chest, cutting right through him, as the kunai in Mr. Tao's chest quickly took life away from him. Kakashi's eyes grew wide as he finally found out what had just happened to him. Mr. Tao held onto the handle before reaching unconsciousness, hitting the ground. As Mr. Tao hit the ground and the kunai reached further into his body, Aya ran over to him, flipping him over and looking at his wounds. She pulled the kunai from his body and then hugged him, saying, "Don't die, don't die, don't die." She started to cry as she saw Naruto walk into the town. He was in shock, as was Hinata. "Naruto, Aya, what happened?" he said. "The Anbu attacked us." Naruto walked past her, and then looked at the bodies. No. He looked at Kakashi, who was still alive. Kakashi. Anger overwhelmed him. Why? Kakashi groaned as he felt his wounds. I did it because it was my duty. No. Why did you say not to find Sasuke? Because, in the end, I didn't want to fight you. Then how come you came on the Anbu mission? Because they were short of ninja. He laughed as he closed his eyes. Naruto backed up, slowly, and then looked around him. Slowly, the crowd was coming back out of their homes. Is there a doctor around here? Shouted Naruto. Mr. Tao woke up, in a white room, nothing but white. It caused him to squint. He looked around, and saw Kakashi, sleeping, beside him in another hospital bed. He stood up, groaning. Mr. Tao found where the immense light was coming from, and he walked up to the window, putting his hand up to shield his eyes. The village was below him, the many buildings and shops, the smoke coming from all the buildings that made the village alive. It reminded him of his own, and then it reminded him of how far away he was from his own. Mr. Tao walked into the hall, where Hinata and Naruto were sleeping on a bench next to it. Naruto had his head in Hinata's lap, lying crosswise on the bench while Hinata had dozed off while sitting upwards. Aya was on a bench across the hall, sleeping the same way Naruto was, but without a lap to rest her head in. He walked over to her and bent down to her level, and said, "Aya." Her eyes opened, and she jumped back. "Ah, This caused Naruto to jump up as well. You're alive, she said. Mr. Tao smiled. Mr. Tao. Happy to see you made it through. The doctor said that your wounds weren't as serious as we first thought they were, said Naruto. Hinata started to yawn as she woke up. Well, now that you are awake, we can leave. He stood up and stretched. Leave? What about Kakashi? Said Aya. Naruto looked at her, then said, Kakashi will be staying here. He almost died when he and Mr. Tao fought, meaning he will be here for a while. Wait, said Mr. Tao. What day is it? It's been 3 days since your fight, so it's Friday. Okay. But you've been in the same place for 3 days, haven't the Umbu attacked yet? Naruto looked at him with a serious face, and then lifted up his right sleeve. A long gash, still a little bloody, sat there. They've attacked 4 times already. That's why we have to leave. Mr. Tao studied the wound and then sighed as he started to walk down the hall. Everyone else followed him. Naruto, said Mr. Tao. They were now walking down a path, woods to the right and a long, green field to the left. Hinata and Aya were off talking about their own things, while Naruto and Mr. Tao were at the front. It had been half a day since they had left, and it was nearing nightfall. How come you were sleeping today, near my room, when you said the Umbu were still attacking you guys? Isn't that stupidity? Well, Mr. Tao, today Ida finally opted to protect us while you were out. Sasuke. Mr. Taguchi must have sent someone, I don't know. They just had a ninja say to us that they would fight the Umbu who were coming, and we said okay, since we really didn't have a choice, you know. It had been 2 days without sleep, plus fighting every day, so we needed it. In fact, we only got about 3 hours of sleep before you woke up. He yawned. You probably have noticed. Well, it's getting close to dark. Where do you want to set up camp for the night? He said it loud enough for the girls to hear. Not now, we still have at least half an hour of sunlight left, said Aya. It's gonna be a warm night anyways, so we could walk in the night if the moon stays full. Last night the moon was full, said Naruto. Means tonight it'll be about 3/4 full. So yeah, I think we could make it in the dark. Don't you have to sleep? Said Mr. Tao. Sleep is for wussies. Naruto laughed as he tried to make a smile. How far do you think that we have left? Including today? To get to Sachi? I don't know really, but it should be 1 day till our next pit stop. The village of Fu is up next, and after that it was only about 3 days, so about 4 I'm guessing. Mr. Tao sighed as he looked at the sunset. Orange and red filled the skies. Naruto? Said Hinata behind him. He stopped for a second to join her in the back. Aya walked up to the front, smiling at Naruto as she passed by. She and Mr. Tao started to talk. Yeah? He said. Hinata looked to the field, sighing, then looking back down to the ground. Her head lifted to Naruto's face. Never, mind. Well, about the other day. Before we got to Ida. He looked up at the sky. You remember? Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you. I'm ready. Ready for what? Ready to spend the rest of my life with you. Hinata. I may have not shown it throughout the last couple of years, but I love you. He moved in and kissed her, and put his hands on her shoulders. Aya and Mr. Tao kept walking, engaged in conversation. The two stopped talking and then Mr. Tao said, Naruto. You mind keeping up with the group? Naruto and Hinata broke the kiss, surprised, and then looked at me. Tao and Aya. Yeah. Naruto smiled. Come on, he said to Hinata. The two met up with Aya and Mr. Tao again, and they walked into the night. The morning came, and the group was now in a hotel. As they had reached Sachi during the night, Mr. Tao had miscalculated. They bought 2 rooms, Naruto and Hinata in one, and Mr. Tao and Aya in another. Naruto slept, his nose on Hinata's neck, and his arms around her. In the other room, Mr. Tao and Aya slept in almost the same position. Mr. Tao opened his eyes as he stared at Aya's neck. Aya, he whispered. She moaned as morning crept up on her as well, and Mr. Tao slowly got out of the bed. He walked into Naruto's room through the door that connected the two, and then said, Naruto, Hinata, time to go. Naruto flipped over and then moaned. Already? God, it's only like 6 o'clock. Well, we've got a big day ahead of us. You are in Sachi. Naruto flew from his bed. What? The door opened, and everyone but me. Tao looked to see who it was. Sasuke stood in the doorway. You've finally arrived, he said. Sasuke, said Naruto as he stood up. He stopped as he looked at him, and was at a loss of words. Sasuke had grown taller, and he seemed more mature, and for a rare occasion, he was smiling. What? Naruto, I'm happy you made it. And you brought. He looked at Aya, her. Naruto, he reached for his kunai. Are you Einzigardic? No. Mr. Taguchi. They are allies, said Mr. Tao. Put the kunai away, sir. Then, how? Why is she here? Why aren't you with your kind? He said, spitting out the words as he put the kunai back into its holster. I won't have her stay here while you guys are here, no. Sasuke shook his head as he looked at Naruto, who began to speak. Sasuke. She isn't like that. You know that, said Naruto as he moved closer to Sasuke. She's staying here, or I leave. No. Don't leave. He sighed quietly and then said, she can stay. But if you do something that contradicts this village, I will kill you on the spot. He walked off. Hey! Shouted Naruto as he went through the doorway. Sasuke kept walking, and Naruto followed him. Sasuke! He kept walking. Sasuke! Nothing. Naruto, with all the power inside him, threw his hand to the wall. Instantly his hand went through pieces of wood, wallpaper, and dust flying everywhere. Sasuke stopped, then looked behind him, but did not turn around. Naruto. He turned around, smiling. Thank you? That is the power I need. He looked at the crumbling wall as the others came out of the doorway. Naruto started to speak, but Sasuke cut him off. You see, Naruto, the reason I brought you here is because my village is currently readying for war. For the last month we have been mobilizing and getting ready for the inevitable. You're attacking the leaf? Said Mr. Tao. Why was I not told? Mr. Tao, we aren't attacking, whoever said we were? In this mission we are defending, and that is why I sent for you. Because, quite frankly, I need people to teach my ninja techniques, kind of like that one that Jiraiya taught you, Naruto. My ninja have all the techniques that I taught them and then some that they have created all on their own, through either fate or complete luck. Like the sword that Mr. Tao created. Thought Aya. Naruto. Aya Hinata, will you please mobilize and train my troops? Said Sasuke. I have taught them all I know, and if you teach them all you know, then that is 2 times the information going through their heads, and that is better than 1. Naruto smiled as he looked at the ground, then looked up at Sasuke. That was pretty hard for you to say, wasn't it? It's why you walked away. Sasuke turned around, keeping his back to Naruto. Do you accept? He said, smiling. I accept. But first, there are some things I need you to do. Naruto sat down at a table, staring at a blank piece of paper. He wrote some on it, studying what it was as he continued down the page. He folded the paper, then put it inside an envelope, walking to the door. His surroundings were bleak, just a white room with furniture in it. Here you go, he said, giving the paper to a ninja. You do know what they look like, right? Yes, sir. From the descriptions you gave me, I'm sure I can find all of them in less than a day inside Konoha, said the ninja. Thank you. The ninja looked at Naruto. He had a scruffy-looking face, with an unshaved beard that was starting to grow from his face, and whitening hair. I will leave now, goodbye, sir. Naruto watched the man leave the building as he went through the letter over and over again in his mind. Sunichi stood, staring down at the village of Sachi, laughing to himself, remembering the leaf. Still can't realize I lost that battle. I'll go back someday. But for now I must destroy this village. It has potential. Too much potential. He reached for his sword, but a hand stopped him. Not yet, Sunichi, said a child from behind him. The child had long black hair, but it stopped at around the bottom half of his neck. The kid had a smile on his face, as he wore a black suit. We should wait a little bit, get our offenses and our plans down. You would have never succeeded in the leaf without planning. We've planned for 2 years, Ishida, we need to attack. We have the plan completely done, so let's attack. You only have me and you, that's why you lost in the leaf. Sure, you won tactical wise, but in the end you lost due to manpower. At the time it was only you and I. I had you as well. I wasn't ready to fight, I was 5 then. So 8 is a good starting age to fight? It's only because I have an advanced bloodline. Nothing more than that. Without it I would still just be a regular boy. Shinichi removed his hand from his sword and then sighed. So you think we need more manpower? Where are we going to get that from? The Atakatsuki? No, they're too expensive. We are a poor village, we couldn't possibly afford that. And the village? It hasn't been coming out with any good ones either, not even from my bloodline. I just want you to grow up so you can make me some good warriors. Ishida looked at him with a worrying look and then made a fake smile. Well, I don't know, we'll become good warriors, I'm sure. What about that Kiba kid? He's dead. Oh. Can't you just do the thing you did with him to some kid? I mean, it wasn't that hard for me to do that. You turned the kid into a monster. He didn't even listen to my orders. Aya was actually afraid of him. She was never afraid of anyone. I cannot take a risk like that. Well, I've almost perfected it. Maybe we should try again. If the kid we choose gets too powerful, it's your ass. I'm not taking the heat for you. If it happens again, the village will become a pain. They don't think we should plan this much? No, they are starting to think we're getting careless. That we don't know that Naruto is going in there. Sure, the kid is powerful, but he's no match for me. Not even you, Ishida sighed. We attack when I perfect the technique. How long do you think it will take you? I'm not sure, but the tests on the animals have been doing fine. It's rather fun though, they grow 1,000 times their strength. Well, that's why I only do it to small animals. But once this squirrel took down a tree, Shinichi smiled as he turned away from Sachi. Naruto's letter, to whoever reads this. Shikamaru, Shino, Ino, and Sakura, I am calling for you to come to my present location. I will not tell you where it is, because that would compromise me and yourself. The man who gave this letter to you will take you to the right place. This is important. It deals with Sasuke. I found him. Sakura dropped the letter in surprise, looking up at the ninja who gave it to her. No way. He was actually telling the truth. We have to find Shikamaru. I know where Shino and Ino are. She pulled the ninja from her doorstep and then stopped, picking up the letter and staring at it once again. Okay, let's go.